Radani Talent.
It is the 11th day of February 2025. Welcome to the program where you're watching us from. My name is Mike Migo and you're watching Good Morning Kenya. Always a pleasure to have you on board. Of course, a lot is in store for you and a lot has happened, especially in the political landscape. Things continue to unfold. But even as such, Raila's date with destiny is beckoning, and he has said it's not a do or die contest. He is ready for any outcome, and as that is happening yesterday leaders were heckled in Laikipia during a funeral, and that is one of the things that are happening within the country. We had the president the other day being heckled in Isiolo by some people, and Kindiki, on the other hand, Deputy President Kindiki says he will drive Gachagua out of town. And we hope to see, or we shall be following that political development as it continues. And also the debate surrounding the lifting of vetting for IDs continues, and it has attracted a lot of comments from leaders across board, and that is one of the things we shall be looking at in our People and Politics segment. So you want to tune into that conversation. I will be joined by Ken Odhiambo, who is an advocate of the High Court, Imran Mohammed, who is a youth leader, and also Ishmael Nyaribo, who is a constitutional lawyer, as we look at everything politics and everything in between. I am not alone. Vivian is in the building. Good morning, Vivian.
Good morning, Mike, and a very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the show this beautiful Tuesday morning. Yes, all eyes are on the AUC voting that will be happening on the 15th. That's this Saturday. And we know that former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is among the contenders. You know, alongside him is one Mohammed Ali Yusuf from Djibouti, as well as Richard Randriamandatro. I hope I haven't butchered his name, who is from Madagascar. So there will be contending for that AUC seat on Saturday, and yeah, we'll just it's a matter of wait and see to just get to know who will be clinching that particular seat. And you know that right here on KBC Channel 1 we will be keeping you up to date with that. Away from that, today being a Tuesday, it is Health Tuesday, and I will be joined by one Donald Odongo Okumu, who is a counseling psychologist, and he will be here. Our topic of conversation will be dealing with body odor. You definitely want to stay tuned for that conversation. And just as Mike said, he's not alone. Yes, we are the three of us. And finally, Regina Manyara is back from her leave. For the
first time on Good Morning Kenya in 2025.
This year, by the way.
Welcome back.
Good morning, Manyara.
I don't think there's nothing wrong with going on leave. Anyway, I was just telling you off cuff that in my over a decade plus of actually working, this is the very first time that I went entirely for leave.
For real? In over 10 years?
Yes.
This is the first time you
You see, we are always on call as anchors, so you may be on leave, but you're coming in to step in for the bulletin. That's not really leave, but I managed to do that in 2024, 2025. So for me, that's a milestone. And I'm glad I took the break. It was very much needed. Thank you very much for welcoming back.
Welcome
we'll see
back.
you back bigger and better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Now we start off on matters of bigger things on hand, and we just want to show you a sneak peek of one of the dailies, which my colleagues are going to be sampling as we proceed. Yeah. Yes, you read the headline, right? That is 100 members of parliament head to Addis for Raila's AUC polls D-Day. And that's where we start off our news coverage this morning, where former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has pledged to pursue institutional reforms in the African Union if he emerges victorious in the African Union Commission chairperson elections slated for Saturday. Raila maintains he is open to any outcome in Addis Ababa, saying his candidature is a representation of his long-time desire to serve the continent. Here's John Jacob Curia with the details.
In his annual address of the heads of mission and international organizations at State House, Nairobi, the
Bomas of Kenya, Nairobi. With the clock ticking to D-Day for Raila Odinga's candidature for the position of African Union Commission Chief, the Orange Democratic Movement's Nairobi Women's League gathered supporters to seek divine intervention for his bid. Song and dance, worship and prayers filling the auditorium. Raila handed a staff, symbolizing the daunting task ahead of him as he seeks to shepherd the more than 1 billion people who call Africa home in pursuing education, infrastructure development, energy connectivity and better use of minerals. Raila pledging to pursue development and institutional reforms if elected.
Mimi nitasimama imara. Nikienda katika bara la Afrika, nitafanya mambo laini sawa sawa vile nyinyi mnajua tabia yangu. Tutajaribu kutatua shida ya bara ya Afrika. Mambo ya elimu, mambo ya matibabu, mambo ya miundo msingi, mambo ya viwanda, mambo ya usafirishaji ya bidhaa na ya biashara, yote tutaimarisha.
The former Prime Minister says he's approaching the election with an open mind.
Naenda kwenye kinyang'anyiro, sivyo? Mimi nina hakika tutakienda pale kwa kiongozi ya Mwenyezi Mungu, tutafaulu. Tukishinda tumefaulu, tukishindwa tumefaulu. Sawa sawa.
Sisi ambaye tumebaki hapa, kazi yetu ni kuombea mazuri, Mungu amsaidie apate hiyo kiti ambaye anataka. Na akitaka si yake binafsi na bibi yake mimi, lakini ni ya Afrika nzima.
He called on the government to get to the root of the recent spate of abductions and extrajudicial killings.
Hatuwezi kuvumilia kamwe watu wanatekwa nyara hovyo hovyo. Hawa watu ambao wanataka watu nyara ni watu gani? Ambaye askari tunasema hawajui. Kama askari hawajui, hayajakani kuwa na polisi.
Meanwhile, the prayer meeting attended by Nairobi County Governor Johnson Sakaja exposed cracks within the Orange Party, with a section of ODM top brass, including Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, giving it a wide berth.
ODM. Nataka Nairobi ibaki imara. Nataka Nairobi ibaki namna gani? Ndiye huyo kijana yangu huyo. Ashikilie na afanye kazi sawa sawa.
Nimesikia Ladwa na nimesikia Wanga. Dalili ya mvua nini? Dalili ya mvua ni nini? Mwenye macho haambiwi Na mwenye masikio haambiwi. Sisi tuko hapo bampa tu bampa, tuko pamoja.
Mimi nataka kukuhakikishia ya kwamba sisi kama your students tutashikilia pamoja. We will remain united. Tutashikana mikono under your guidance, because baba hata akiwa Addis Ababa yeye ndio party leader wetu, bado anatuelezea vile tufanye kuhusiana na chama.
Unapoenda kupigania kule EU, mimi namwomba Sakaja gavana wetu, wewe toka UDA kuja kwa ODM.
Two other candidates, namely Mahmoud Ali Yusuf of Djibouti and Richard Randiamandrato of Madagascar, will vie for the seat on Saturday, 15th of February 2025.
So that's the big story. That is, whatever outcome that comes our way as Kenya come the 15th, after that vote, it's going to change Kenya's political landscape, and that is for sure. Let me just give you a quick analysis as per quoted in this particular daily, where my colleagues are going to peruse more and give you updates. Is that if the ODM leader wins the election, it would be a major diplomatic and political victory for President William Ruto. The triumph could cement Ruto's hold on power and boost his international standing. However, should Raila lose, the experiment of winning with the former Prime Minister's political base could backfire. Raila then could also return to the local scene to contest for the 2027 presidential election or endorse another ODM candidate. So what is required to be declared a winner in the upcoming elections with the AUC? Quick month is that to clinch the seat, a candidate during the first round of voting should secure at least 33 votes out of 49. The AU has a 55-member countries, but 6 are not eligible to participate. So if in the first round, no candidate gets 33 votes during the first round of voting, a second round of voting will be ordered, and whoever bags the highest number, or what we call a simple majority, carries the day. So far, Raila's secretariat has said that he has secured an endorsement from 28 countries, and he's already visited at least 27 countries during his campaign, including the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to expert opinion by Macharia Munene, says that it is not a straight one for Kenya, and if Kenya gets over the Congo issue with ease, then the Kenyan candidate stands a chance. Well, we'll be sending a crew down to Addis, and they're going to be monitoring what is going to become, what were the outcomes of that particular vote. You can also be part of this conversation. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Now back to the local scene, where rather international diplomacy, where it's concerned, is that President William Ruto says Kenya remains focused in forging a robust bilateral and multilateral cooperation with all nations to deliver tangible results to global citizens. He was addressing heads of mission and international organizations at State House, Nairobi, where he reiterated Kenya's commitment to champion and expand diplomatic relations, cultivate strategic alignments, and build bridges to further the shared success.
In his annual address of the heads of mission and international organizations at State House, Nairobi, the president said Kenya's commitment to diplomacy has allowed the country to forge global relationships, with diplomatic footprints expanding from 6 missions at independence to 70 currently. The president saying the country's foreign policy priorities currently include deepening diplomatic ties, championing Pan-Africanism, expanding international cooperation, enhancing regional stability, fostering economic development, advocating climate justice, addressing global health challenges, and pushing for equitable reforms in international finance and governance.
The evolving global landscape calls for urgent reforms to make multilateral institutions more responsive to the needs of all nations. Kenya strongly supports UN reform, particularly greater representation for Africa.
On matters regional peace, security and prosperity, especially the troubled Democratic Republic of Congo DRC, Ruto said Kenya's position is for an immediate ceasefire, humanitarian access and peaceful resolution to the conflict.
We made it very clear that there cannot be and there is no possibility of a military solution to this DRC problem.
He added that robust efforts are underway to enhance Nairobi's position as a hub for multilateral diplomacy by ensuring international organizations enjoy necessary privileges, expanded infrastructure, and bolstering security. He said beyond Africa, Kenya is also contributing to global security through the Multinational Security Support Initiative in Haiti, with calls for the diplomatic community to encourage their governments to join in the effort.
Because of the centrality and the importance of peace and security and stability in Haiti, all parties agreed that this is one intervention that requires all our support.
Canada remains steadfastly committed to Haiti. It is part of our neighborhood. We have invested a significant amount of money in the multi-sector security mission. That has not wavered. And we continue to look forward to working with Kenya. Very much appreciate Kenya's contribution.
I also greatly appreciate the notion or the recognition of our joint efforts in Haiti, and recognize His Excellency's remarks about Kenya as a reliable partner. That Kenya is taking on this humanitarian burden and this leadership role in an area so far from herself, from Kenya, is truly impressive. And I want to express again my appreciation for all of the Kenyan police and officials who have contributed to that.
President Ruto called on international partners to support peace missions in Africa, citing the DRC situation currently facing financial challenges. He said there was need for Africa's policies to focus on job creation, entrepreneurial support, and investments in technology and creative economy. The head of state pointed out that Kenya remains committed to clean energy and investment in renewable manufacturing, such as solar panels and batteries, urging the world to recognize climate action as an imperative for survival and shared responsibility.
Away from matters bilateral and multilateral connections or other cooperations with Kenya, we get down to matters of graft, where the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has revealed that the average bribe police officers receive to render service has increased by 84%. During the launch of the examination into the system, policies, procedures and practices of the National Police Service, the Abdi Mohamud-led anti-graft body has established that a regular police officer will receive a bribe of up to 11,115 shillings, while their traffic counterparts will inquire for a bribe of up to 7,011 shillings. A report by the EACC into the systemic weaknesses and loopholes that encourage corruption in Kenya's police operations established that despite Kenyans paying the said bribes, they do not get the services sought. Here's Abdiaziz with the details.
In adherence with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act of 2011 and Article 31 of the Constitution, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has moved in to audit the National Police Service's systems following numerous reports relating to bribery and other forms of corruption within the service.
We don't want always to be number one leading in terms of corruption.
The anti-graft body has established that the average bribe paid to a regular and a traffic police officers 0.1% in 2022 to 84.2% in 2023.
This man, after 2 days, he had spent more money transporting the people who were supposed to investigate the case to various places, and there was nothing. There was no recovery. Every time he's told now, nunua lunch.
During the launch of the examination into the systems, policies, procedures and practices of the service at the Police College in Embakasi, Nairobi County, the EACC CEO Abdi Mohamud said that in the year 2022, a regular police officer will receive a bribe of 6,032 shillings, and the figure rose to 11,115 shillings in 2023. On the other hand, traffic police officers will receive a bribe of up to 5,039 shillings, which increased to 7,011 shillings in the year 2023. Moreover, the report highlighted that the probability of a bribe being demanded when seeking a service also rose by 1.28%. The incidents were witnessed especially at the issuance of a certificate of good conduct, seeking police protection, bailing of arrested individuals, and the issuance of a police abstract.
The number of people out of 100 who received services only after paying a bribe. So maybe if you are not able to part with 50 bob or something else, something happens.
The last time I checked, the giver and the taker are equally. Where was the line drawn then, where the giver was lionized and the taker was demonized?
So we really want you to even help us get adequate resources, because a motivated officer, chair, is an officer who is holistically covered. He will wake up, he has all his tools of trade, uniform.
A criminal is a criminal, whether in uniform or not. So for those who will be involved, then they will face the consequences of the law.
According to the EACC CEO Abdi Mohamud, the National Police Service has consistently ranked at the top of the list of the most corrupt institutions in surveys conducted by EACC over the years.
And I want to assure the service officers that the National Police Service is not under investigation by the EACC, but they are coming to join us so that we can look at the gaps.
If the IG says no more corruption in the police force, it will end today. And Masengeli is there saying, once you say he hatachukua,
They fear EACC. Somehow it's an enemy because the way they are being arrested.
So any institution any public institution that actually takes the systems review seriously, as we will, of course, do and implement the recommendations that we give, they will reap the benefit.
The anti-graft body has assigned 11 sleuths to address the systemic weaknesses and loopholes that encourage corruption within the service. Upon completion of the audit, EACC will submit a comprehensive report of the findings and make recommendations to the Inspector General of Police for implementation. The exercise is set to start tomorrow and conclude on the 18th of July this year.
Well, do you agree with the report? You can let us know on our X handle at KBC Channel 1. Now to health. Stakeholders in the health industry now say the current funding model for the Social Health Authority was not well thought out and needs to be reviewed for better outcome. According to the experts, the model puts heavier burden on those in the informal employment while leaving out those in the informal sector who contribute up to 80% to the economy. They are proposing the introduction of taxes in order to fund health, as the case with the fuel levy that is used to maintain our roads.
On Monday, stakeholders drawn from the health sector, civil society among others convened in Nairobi to dissect the health sector and the challenges it faces, especially since the introduction of the Social Health Authority.
We have walked all the way from Kenyatta Hospital, Migu.
Among those present was Grace Mulei, a citizen activist who made headlines after storming Afya House over failure of the Social Health Authority systems at Kenyatta National Hospital.
Because how I woke up that morning to go to Kenyatta, I went as a patient. I was not going to do anything. I was going to get treatment. We were just looking for help. It wasn't a planned thing.
Mulei says that her case is yet to be formally dropped, despite the Ministry of Health saying it will drop it.
They told me that they have withdrawn the case, but officially it is not withdrawn because I went to the police station and they told me they have not received any instructions So we are still awaiting officially to be told that it has been withdrawn.
The issue of health financing took center stage as experts outlined what needs to be done to ensure adequate funding.
And if we look at the Kenyan system, we see that the greatest burden of the new shift system came onto the formal sector. We've said that they are not enough within the country. We have about only 3 million formal sector employees. If you look at the average wages, 88% of them earn less than 100,000. The average formal sector wage right now is 72,000.
It is very difficult to enforce contributions from the people in the informal sector. It is normally easy to deduct salaries from those who are salaried. 80% is in the informal sector. But that's not to say those are poor people. Actually, some of the richest people in our country are in those informal sectors. And some of the poorest people actually are salaried people.
They called for the introduction of earmarked tax to fund healthcare as one of the ways to capture those in the informal sector.
If we can earmark taxes for maintenance of roads, why can't we earmark taxes for maintenance of our own health? And we don't have to create a new tax. We may just go to that fuel levy and we say, if it's 16%, 10% will go to roads and 6% goes to health.
While health remains a devolved function, the government has been challenged to ensure that counties get more funds in order to deliver.
Now, what is your take on that? Is the funding model working? Will an introduction of taxes be a better way of funding matters health? Feedback is appreciated. Get us on X at KBC Channel 1. Now, we delve to some, encouraging news, especially for the private sector. And the Cooperative Bank of Kenya is the first lender to reduce its lending rate in line with the Central Bank of Kenya's move last week to cut the benchmark lending rate and the cash reserve ratio. Cooperative Bank of Kenya has announced a reduction of its benchmark lending rate from 16.5% to 14.5%.
Policy makers at the central bank on Wednesday last week reduced the benchmark lending rate to 10.75%, the lowest in a year. In addition, the policy makers further reduced the cash reserve ratio from 4.25% to 3.25% to free up more cash held by commercial banks for lending the private sector to stimulate economic activity. In response, Cooperative Bank of Kenya has become the first lender to reduce its lending rate, offering its existing and new customers a 2% lower lending rate. In a statement, Cooperative Bank Group Managing Director Gideon Muruki says, and I quote, Coop Bank Group is pleased to announce a significant 2% reduction in our base lending rate from 16.5% per annum to 14.5% per annum, end of quote. Cooperative Bank of Kenya decision to reduce lending rates is intended to stimulate credit growth to key sectors of the economy, notably the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises that are a critical engine to drive and sustain economic growth. The reduction in lending rates comes at a time when households and businesses are grappling with the high cost of living. However, individual borrowers will be charged a different lending rate based on their credit score as well as borrowing and repayment history. Muruki said, and I quote, the effective lending rate will be the base lending rate of 14.5% per annum plus a margin of between 0% per annum to 4% per annum based on the individual customer's credit profile, end of quote. The reduction in the base lending rate by Cooperative Bank is expected to trigger similar moves by other commercial banks in coming days.
Just further to add to that is the Central Bank of Kenya announced that it will met out daily fines to banks as punishment for failure to cut the interest rates in the latest effort by the regulator to unlock cheaper credit for business. Now, according to the CBK governor, that is Kamau Thuge, he said that the regulator has started physical inspection of banks to expose and punish those who are reluctant in, cutting their interest rates after that particular MPC. So has your bank reduced the lending rates? If not, you know where to send that information to. We head over to sports, where 5 past winners have confirmed their participation in this year's magical Kenya Open Golf Championship, slated for February 20th all the way to the 23rd at the Muthaiga Golf Club. Meanwhile, the championship received 60 million sponsorship from Absa Bank.
Among them is 2023 winner Jorge Campillo of Spain, who narrowly missed last year's gong. The 2021 Secretary Peter Tum reiterated the government's commitment to continuing retaining the stage of the event by investing in it. The tournament, which received a sponsorship boost worth 60 million shillings from Absa Bank, is set to attract a total of 144 players, with Kenya being represented by 13 players.
As a government, we remain committed to creating an enabling environment for sports organizations to thrive. Our commitment is driven by the fact that sports not only unite us, just like the MD said, as a nation, but also enables our youth to pursue their sporting talent.
Well, that effectively puts a cap on matters in the headlines this morning. Be sure to peruse our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, for further stories that are making headlines across the globe, including on matters business, sports and regional politics. It's down to the wire for the AUC chairmanship slot there for Kenya, with some of the headlines this morning indicating that over 100 members of parliament are going to be in Addis. That also should include KBC Channel 1, that is sending a team there to keep tabs on what is going to be happening on Saturday. Remember, however the vote turns out, whether in favor of our Kenyan candidate, that is Raila Odinga, if he clinches the position, well, that changes the political matrix here, leaving him out, not able to come back to the politics, especially in 2027 local politics, or rather country politics. If he takes up that particular slot, what does it mean for Kenya as, a regional powerhouse, given the positions that we currently hold across the region? We'll be keeping tabs on that. So do keep it KBC Channel 1. Have a pleasant viewing ahead. I'm Regina Manyera.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
haha nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hota,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma, jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Shoro FM.
Hey, wait, no, you can't do that. Listen to me. The best way to treat your ex is to never show up again.
Please take a look and tell us if you think there are any problems.
It's pretty good. You've put a lot of work into it.
It was my parents. They got into a big fight and threatened to divorce.
Why was that? All right, calm down. What are we gonna do now?
Dad? If you need someone to talk to, I'm always here.
How dare you do that to me?
Sorry, I apologize.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Wagwan, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth way the vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
Napenda life, napenda dema na jidai.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Colder,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa Hadija ai Mani especially ukisonga.
Thank you for staying with us. We're watching KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya. The segment is People and Politics. My name is Mike Migwe. Now we look at politics and everything in between. But before we get into that, let's look at what is making headlines in our local dailies. I will start with the Daily Nation. Agony for youth after Ruto visit. 50 suspects arrested in a police crackdown in Isiolo town on Saturday, hours after President Ruto's meeting was marred by heckling, were yesterday arraigned amid protests by relatives and human rights activists who accused the government of intimidation and harassment. That story is told on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Voting blocks to watch in 2027. An analysis of population projections over the next 20 years show a surge in northeastern, even as President William Ruto abolished strict vetting to ease issuance of national identification cards to the region's residents. The estimates suggest a population growth slump in the populous Mount Kenya and a surge in traditionally sparsely populated areas. That story is told on page 10 of the Daily Nation. 1 year later, Kiptum's assets frozen over family disputes. Read that story on page 34 of the Daily Nation. Cash bouquets on the rise as women fall out of love with flowers. That is a story you'll read on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. Let's now jump over to the Standard. Biased speaker. This is what is captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. A High Court ruling declaring Azimio as the majority party sets the stage for a tense parliamentary session today. Will MPs from both sides abide by the verdict, or will Kenya Kwanza resist the shake-up? All eyes are on Speaker Moses Wetangula, whose earlier ruling now seems to have stoked a political storm. That story is told on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. Moment of truth. AUC race enters homestretch. Raila Odinga faces a defining moment in this. Raila Odinga faces a defining moment this Saturday as he vies for the African Union Commission chairmanship, with the President Ruto backing his bid. A win could see him exit local politics, while a loss may signal a dramatic comeback. Will Africa embrace his vision, or will Kenya's political landscape shift? That story is told in detail on page 7 of the Standard newspaper. Let's now shift to the Star. 100 MPs head to Addis for Raila's AUC polls D-Day. Tightly fought election is scheduled at the AU Summit on February 15th and 16th. That story is told on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspapers. Queries as 40,000 civil servants failed to go on leave. Questions have emerged about the productivity of some civil servants after it emerged that about 40,000 government workers failed to go on leave. HR experts observe that employees do not go on leave for many reasons, with a desire to protect staffs as the prime motivation. That story is told on page 7 of the Star newspaper. State outlines rules to control sand harvesting. It will be illegal to transport sand without a permit from the National Environment Management Authority. This is after the government introduced stringent regulations in latest bid to control sand harvesting in the country. That is what is captured on the front page of the Star, the Daily Nation and the Standard newspaper. Imran Mohammed is a youth leader, joins me on studio. Welcome to the program.
Asante sana, Mike.
And also Wakili Ken Odhiambo, who is an advocate of the High Court. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm very okay.
Let's first of all go through what is making headlines in these local dailies, and I will start with the Daily Nation. Agony for youth after Ruto's visit. 50 suspects arrested in a police crackdown in Isiolo town on Saturday, hours after President Ruto's meeting was barred by heckling, were yesterday arraigned amidst protests by relatives and human rights activists who accuse the government of intimidation and harassment. Imran, let me start with you. What do you make of this? Because arrest followed an order by President Ruto after some youth heckled him.
Well, Mike, thank you for having me. Good morning, Kenyans. I'd like to say that first, we had a historic state visit by the President, His Excellency William Ruto. And that comes with a series of political mobilization, of course, in the right wing and in the left wing. Those who are willing to, receive and warmly welcome the President. And the political opponents of the current regime as well, who will be engaged in counterproductive activities to derail the real issues that the President went there to do. So it is not right for the government or the police now to deal and handle themselves the way they have handled themselves, and to approach young people who are, addressing their grievances or issues like that. But let's also say the reality. It is bad for young people of this country to heckle at the President. And of course, this has a hand in political mobilization. Politicians come out, use young people as the tool to throw things at the President, or the government rather. So I believe it was wrong the way the police handled the young people of Isiolo. As much as we condemn that, we also condemn the political business of heckling at leaders, especially somebody in the stature of the President, so that everybody can see that he's having difficult time talking to his people, talking to the people of Kenya. So I really condemn, I know there are politicians who might have been involved in this. I condemn that kind of business. So let's not shift away the narrative of, a historic state visit by the President in Northeastern, Wajir, Garissa, Mandera and Isiolo. And that is what we are here to appreciate and talk about the gains of such a historic presidential visit. Yes.
Wakili, what do you make? What do you make of that? What do you make of what happened in Isiolo and the reprisals after?
No, I want to talk about the reprisals because I think it's the height of intolerance from the state. Because what we saw, in my view, is an expression of opinion. And I think everyone has a right to express that opinion. The people in that crowd, I think, had a right to communicate their pleasure or displeasure with whatever was going on there, with whatever the president was saying. And so I think if you really don't want to hear the opinions of people, then don't put yourself in a situation where they'll have to express themselves. But if you put yourself in that situation where there are masses and they are going to express themselves, then you must be ready for the attendant consequences, which could be an approval of what you are saying or rather disapproval. So if they disapprove and then you run on a crackdown of perceived people who you think, because I even think it is wrong at all levels, because now how do you identify the hecklers a day later? It means you are running, what are you going to do to the community? Are you going to go to every home and say, I saw very many youths yesterday, you must be one of them? So I think even how you identify people to be arrested and taken to court, I think that is, and what are even charging them with? Is it causing disturbance? What is that? So as I think, let's not use the judicial system, our courts, our police force, to harass the citizenry. I think it needs to be understood that the power belongs to the people. And if we appreciate that, it will be very important. But if we allow state machinery, we allow the police, we allow state agencies to call it usurpation of power, to usurp their powers and really use it to intimidate the citizenry. Because if you arrest them in numbers, what are you trying to communicate? That next time I come here, I don't want to see what I saw last time. But you see now, that one you are now trying to stop people from airing their views. Because what were their options if they didn't agree with you on stage? Or rather, that small population, that section that didn't agree with what you are saying, what did you want them to do? To write a letter? They will definitely exercise by maybe some noises. So I think people should be allowed to express that without fear. That would be my opinion on that.
Imran, was there a better way if you are expressing your displeasure to the government or even to the president? Is there a better way of doing it other than heckling?
I mean, Wakili is in a better position to tell us what are the right procedures of addressing pertinent issues when it comes to addressing somebody in the stature of the president. Heckling is definitely not one of them. So I believe Wakili is a bit lenient on giving us the right answer on this one. But of course, young people have the right to come up with leadership and express their issues through caucuses. They have representatives that can speak on their behalf. They can create platforms where they can invite these leaders to come and address them, and they ask their questions directly. But I think heckling is a political business, and I want to underline that. And actually is one of the biggest problems to our political structure at the moment, because if we are heckling at the president, what about other leaders? What about other leaders? I mean, Isiolo is a very hot seat. The governor has had quite a problem in terms of addressing the public as well. So, and I have seen a lot of digital mobilization ahead of the presidential visit in Isiolo, urging the young people to come out and behave in a certain way. So is Wakili saying that the police should not punish criminals? The police should not hold accountable young people who are really causing such problems in Kenya. So I believe there are better ways, more moderate and democratic ways to air our views as young people. And we should not be used every cycle of elections that we are the ones throwing stones at leaders, and particularly at the leaders we have installed in these positions. Yes.
Wakili, do you think they're being used to settle political or make political statements?
For me, I would not speculate. And what Muhammad is saying, I don't agree with it, because when you say criminals, I think it must be an offense. When you call someone a criminal, he must have committed an offense known to law. So in this case, what is this offense? So you must, for you to arrest someone, then you must be telling them you have committed this offense under this law.
Yes.
So it must be known to law. So if you see, for you to generalize and say because you heckle you are a criminal, you must tell them what is wrong with heckling under the law. You may not be happy with what has happened, but is it something, an offense known to law? Is it punishable under the law? Rather than, so I think, as I've said, just like clapping, if you clap for someone or you shout, would you say that you've committed an offense? But then if you jeer, would you also say that you've... So really, we should distinguish between not being happy with something and whether it is a criminal offense. So if it is a criminal offense, the best you can do is to let it rest. They booed, I didn't like how they looked at me, they were not happy with me. But what they have done is not something that is punishable under our laws.
All right.
So really, let's take people to court, those who deserve to go there. But those who don't deserve to go there, let them leave them. Let us leave them where they are.
All right. Yes. We are also joined by Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo, who is a constitutional lawyer. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
And let me rope you in on this discussion. We are talking about what is captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Agony for youth after Ruto visit. 50 suspects arrested in a police crackdown in Isiolo town on Saturday, hours after President Ruto's meeting was marred by heckling. Were yesterday arraigned amid protests by relatives and human rights activists who accuse the government of intimidation and harassment. What's your take on that?
I think, first of all, we've been complaining about abductions.
Yes.
So we must congratulate the government, at least, for doing the right thing. The government, the police, the head of state feel that that was an attack on them. And they have decided the best thing is to follow the law and arrest those people who are, perceived to be doing a criminal act. I think on that level, we must now congratulate the National Police Service for taking that route. Now, whether it will succeed in court, you see now, that's again part 2, and we shall discuss once probably a charge sheet has been made and what charges are they taking them for in court. But in terms of the behavior of arresting, you have to, this is a democratic nation. The fact that they did not abduct or make them disappear, at that level, I think good-minded citizens should be like, yeah, cool, that is nice, that is the law. If you suspect somebody has done a criminal offense, you arrest them. You don't, use other, intelligence, operatives and make them, disappear, we do not know to where. So I think that was good. But now, whether, I think my colleagues, I was standing here and I had them discuss, of course, my colleague is saying there is no criminal offense, and my other colleague is saying it is not correct, and the proper values, good values and morals, to heckle the head of state. Of course, it is not right to heckle seniors in society, leaders and all. It's not good to heckle them. But if you are interested in correct governance and leadership, you ask the right question: why are the youth heckling? That's where we begin now. Obviously, if I'm going to my house, I don't expect my youthful, family to heckle at me, isn't it? But if they heckle, the question goes beyond, my children heckled at me. You must ask them why. Now, youth is not a proper thermometer point to say that people have heckled at me. These young people, once you become a teenager, the level of energy circulating in you is definitely more. And if it is not managed correctly, you cannot blame the results. So if these are youth, if I look at the people arrested and I realize they are youths, actually I will again advise the National Police Service and the DPP to immediately drop the charges. If it is mature people our age and we are heckling, then of course, consequences can follow, and the correct law for consequences. So youth are a voice of a nation. If they're heckling, definitely all you need to do is to listen to them and ask them, why are they heckling?
Are you saying people of your age are not supposed to express displeasure?
No, we have several democratic ways, by the way. We can protest. When the head of state, as a symbol of unity and as a symbol, a head of state of the country comes at a place, I am sure I have responsibility to paint my country in a certain way. So I will wait for him to speak, finish up. Then I will go mobilize all my, LSK and all private practitioners and professionals, and we go to the street. And again, you can see they still beat us in the street also. So I am a supporter of disintegrating issues. I'm looking at the Isiolo issue singularly in the sense of what could be done. The youth must be released. But if you find it is, people like me who are coming up together to heckle the president when he's talking, then definitely, at my level, we face consequences. Because we have proper ways of airing our views. I can go to the street, I can come here, I can speak on media.
Doesn't that apply to the youth also?
No, definitely not. I mean, the youth who are coming up, these are growing minds. The growing minds, they are sort of research in motion. They are continuously learning new things. They have a right to say whatever they say or refuse, and it's upon the DC, the county commissioners to try their level best to, Now, my brother spoke about probably, I don't know, I didn't hear him whether he said the governor or any politicians who could be sponsoring. I don't know what that is, but in terms of sponsoring heckling, now I want to come to my last bit of this comment. This has been started by State House, nobody else. It is State House that started heckling. When the people around the president tell him to publicly come and say, there are 3 things you can do, and they must be 3. Those are threatening remarks couched in a language by head of state. Now, we are seeing, and the youth are seeing. In fact, if you go to the schools, to playgrounds, to sports places, once you have been beaten, you are told, you shut up, there are 3 things. So, that language from leaders, you've heard others saying, Sujui Mama Yenu, I don't know what, that language by leaders re-energizes the youth. So they come to know, they come to realize that, oh, so this is also a good language in public space. So you cannot say, and what were the youth saying, by the way? From what I've seen in the clip, and which is not the qualified form of evidence, but I see them saying, uongo. The head of state is saying some remark, then uongo. Now then you look at the head of state. Then he loses control. Then he literally speaks from the throat and the chest and says, those kind of words, they resonate immediately to the youth. So when youth now are playing somewhere, they actually have to imitate their head of state. They're like, you will see what I will do with you. You cannot do that to me. That is wrong. And that's why we keep saying, much as we may criticize or we may be, appearing to be opponents of a particular, school of thought, yes, or the head of state himself, the truth is, head of state finally must sit with councillors, and they are there. There are plenty. Councillors must sit with the financial experts, must sit with political experts, must sit with communication experts. Every single trip he's making, or he has all those people at his disposal. And they should tell me, Your Excellency, when it comes to youth responding, we plead with you to use this route. That's how. That's head of state is not just William Ruto. I mean, presidency involves a lot of people around him, and they should be given a chance to talk to him and give opinion. I mean, Ruto, when, for example, he speaks like, I have a PhD, I mean, what that is communicating to the people is actually not what William Ruto meant. So communication experts should be there to actually tell him that, Your Excellency, when it comes to, if people react like this, and again, sorry, before you go to a trip, the head of state and his team always have enough intelligence on the mood and what is the likely outcome of that trip. So, I mean, we should not, behave like we didn't know what's going to happen at Isiolo and then come out and then, become bitter and all those stuff, sort of things. I still want to route for the youth. They should be released.
Okay. I will give you time to respond to what Wakili has said, but I will do that after this short break. This is Good Morning Kenya. Stay with us.
Ima na wendo mwingi tukikuthokia Embu County, the land of opportunities. Kambunene ya Ngemi FM mushi worata.
Tuiga gure na kamwetha kama vyumeto. Muroro kiande tukunye maire na murori tuthie thokore besa mivukore cha
manje makiyara uranje mure cietu cia thitima na ronje rwathagana nyamu cia kithaka igitugemeria bururi wetu wa mbere Embu County. Ngemi FM tikomono tukianirira na mugambo munene eno ni
Ngemi FM
musie wa urata.
Eno ni nyumba nene
musie wa urata.
Ngemi FM 103.5.
Kwa nini lakini wewe mwanamke utesa moyo wangu? Kwa nini lakini? Leo nitakumaliza.
Nuru, mimi kama kiongozi wenu, mimi nawaahidi kwamba nitawajengea hospitali nyingine.
Tamwambie kama hakukupata wakati ule, sasa ndo haizi kukupata kabisa.
Mimi nimesema tu leo nitalala kwa Karembo.
Jua tu kwamba kuna kitu muhimu kimepotea humu nyumbani.
Nini basi na kipotea wapi?
Nakuuliza peke yangu iko wapi?
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
You're watching Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mark Migu. This is People and Politics. Before we went on a break, Imran, we wanted to respond to what Wakili said.
Yes, Mike, I would like to respond to what my good friend Wakili Nyaribo has just said. And I'd like to remind him that this is a national television. I don't want whatever he has said to be taken out of context in terms of, you know, State House being the origin of heckling. And I believe that statement is untrue. And Wakili, being the good lawyer I know, is well aware of the burden of substantiation of whatever he has said. So I believe as Kenyans we're used to this political heckling. And I give my example to, for example, Governor Sakaja. He was actually stoned in one rally. You have seen what happens in Western Kenya when the wrangle between Natembeya and Speaker Wetangula. And everywhere you go in Kenya, there is that political animosity between leaders and the people they represent. And unfortunately, I'd like to say that heckling has become an enterprise for some people in politics. So the president is not, you know, somebody who is a victim of this heckling business alone. Other leaders have been heckled, others have been subjected to violence. You've seen what happened in Limuru the other day. So this is something that is there across all regions here in Kenya. And I don't want Wakili Nyaribo to go on record saying that it is State House who started this political heckling business.
I mean, you saw what former deputy president, the language he was using. I mean, you've seen people. I mean, close friends of the head of state, and the language they use. That is really my position. It's not like.
Yes. I'll just have a minute.
Yes.
There's only one thing my learned colleague has said.
Yes.
I have a problem with that. The government this time did not abduct. This time they arrested. I think we cannot congratulate someone for committing a lesser offense. That can never be our position. That is one. True, the issue of heckling is not new. I've seen it in Kenyan parliament. I've seen it outside the country, even in developed democracies, like the United States of America. Those countries, even the UK, these issues, heckling is a normal way of expression everywhere. So him to say that because you are older, then you are not supposed to heckle. I think I've seen even MPs heckling the speaker, heckling each other, throwing water balls at each other. So really it is not a new thing, saying that these youths would have waited when they now go and organize a nice protest. So I think it's a common thing, and I think we should call it for what it is. We should not try to go around it and saying, no, at least now they were arrested. Litigation is a very expensive affair, so holding someone in a cell for a week for an offense that may not even see the light of the day, I think it's not right.
You know, if they come to our offices, these youth, we've recovered money for suspects who are, you know, kept in police cells for over 24 hours. They will still make money anyway. And probably they were idle. No, it's true. The court will punish the state if you arrest somebody for over 24 hours and charge or not charge them. So the legal, you know, threshold is 24 hours. Unless you show plausible excuse for that, there is no actual excuse under the Constitution. So we've, you know, gone to the courts, and I have several in my office personally, where the court has ordered that this youth must be paid money. This youth must be paid this much. You earn 400,000, you earn $500,000, you know, because that's the only thing remaining. Once the government has arrested you, what else can you do anyway? They arrested you. So you go to court and have them pay for that kind of nuance.
Okay, gentlemen, allow me to graduate this conversation to another matter of public interest. We're talking about matters to do with the lifting of vetting, ID vetting, especially for people in northern Kenya. And allow me to start with you, Imran. What do you think of this move?
I mean, it's a blessing in disguise. I mean, we've been suffering for far too long. From 1963 to date, you can imagine a section of Kenyans being discriminated against in the highest terms possible. And this is one of the biggest burdens we've been carrying all along. You know, we are Kenyans. I am Kenyan, proudly Kenyan. My father is Kenyan, and like his father before him is also Kenyan. So I believe we deserve to live under the terms and conditions of other Kenyans. This issue has been affecting us for far too long. And we really thank the president for making this decision and making it firmly and decisively on his own, because in 2022 he made a pledge when he was campaigning that he will really, by the stroke of a pen, he will get rid of this discriminatory law against the people of Northeastern and people of Somali origin. So I believe it has come a good time. I know many people will politicize this because of the time it is happening, but injustice anywhere or injustice against any people is really something to fight. It's something to speak against. So I believe it's something that was supposed to be done a long time ago. It has come this time, and we are proud of this move by President William Ruto.
Okay, allow me to engage Wakili Nyaribo. The intention is right. Was the timing correct?
Well, I don't know what you mean that the intention was right. There are several things you look at when you're looking at the aspect of vetting before you issue the ID. And then again, we ask the right question, why was it there in the first place? We have had a historical border problem between Kenya and Somalia for long, dating back to the shifters days and the border there, and the border is porous because of the nature of the people who live this side of Kenya and that side of Somalia. So every country must guard its borders. That is primary. That's the major issue here. You protect your borders. You cannot say that there's no border between Kenya and Tanzania. we have a nation, and you can also not say there is no border between Ethiopia and Kenya. These borders are there, and what you call sovereignty of a nation is mapped correctly by, you know, those boundaries. So the boundary between Kenya and Uganda, we have a place called Busia. The people in Busia are vetted for information. You cannot just come here and pick an ID once you say my home is in Busia. Why? Because that's a border town. This happens. Even if you talk about the people who are coming from Namanga, we have Maasai in Kenya and Maasai in Tanzania. So this is all about border integrity. And why? Because statistics help us know how to run commodities, utilities, and how to allocate what people need in a particular region. So the reason why in northern Kenya it was more rampant is because my brother Imran is not telling you the other truth or the other fact, is that Imran now, you will find he has relatives in southern Mogadishu, relatives, genuine relatives, because his auntie, and I'm not saying Imran per se, but his auntie, his mother's sister, might have migrated to go and just settle in Mogadishu. And it's allowed. The Somalis are a vast nation, by the way. You will find Somalis in Minnesota, and they are not intermarrying quickly with Muzungus. They are not. They are coming back to Gede and marrying from their own people, and then they go back. So they have a widespread, population in the world. So when you find relatives of Imran from southern Mogadishu coming to say hi and greet Imran, which is allowed, they have to undergo through the customs offices and be received officially and then come in as guests. Even his own auntie, who had lived here but went there and is a Somali as a citizen, will now come back probably with children, and then finally it will end up, by the way, that you will have a population blowing up without explaining, because they were not born here. They crossed over to the country and then had their papers processed or are requesting for their papers to be processed. So that is not correct for a nation, because you want to know your population and how you are becoming a double number in 4 years, 5 years. How are you a double number? Is it because you were born in the country, or it is because your relatives across the border have come in? That has to be known. I don't think our constitution objects to people becoming citizens of the country, but there's like a process you have to clear, you have to follow. So, and that's where the problem is. Now, you asked about timing. Of course, you know that that opening of the border and then now issuing of IDs has come at a time when the High Court has also said that the census in 2019 were wrong census. So, and Kenyans, my friend, people are learned. People, not learned because they have PhD. The citizens across the street are learned. They know. Almost everybody's a lawyer. So they add 1 + 1. Why now? So I think that that policy, to be honest with you, as much as it will not please my brother here, and is not right. It was not right to blanketly lift the vetting process. The only thing I think that should have been done in this country is to farm the technological process and eliminate human face in terms of vetting. If you have a correct system, now we have facial technology, then they ask certain relevant questions. Who is your mother, grandmother? Do you speak Swahili? How come you don't? Once you answer all those questions correctly, in fact, the ID processing should not take more than 24 hours. But removing the vetting completely is probably, and I think this will be challenged, is probably one easy way of actually making the volatile situation be more insecure. Especially because of the nature of the people that live in the across the two borders. Yes.
Okay. I'll come to you. Let Wakili, I want to hear Wakili's sentiment on this, because we have also seen political leaders commenting on this. Are the people reading too much politics in this?
I would say that vetting is always there for even people who are even in Nairobi. It's not just about the border towns or along the border. There's where your chief signs. That is a vetting process. Because they believe your chief knows you or knows your father. That's where your bishop or pastor signs as you look for some of these things. So now, It is more stringent on the border, and the reason is there, for good reason, is to avoid, the borders are porous, to avoid a situation where people can cross. Actually, I'm told there are places where people have 2 IDs. So you choose where to get a service. You can choose to get it in Tanzania or in Kenya. You can choose to vote in Kenya or in Tanzania. So you
Doesn't that open a lane for even foreigners to have 2 IDs?
Actually, I'm told they do. So now, saying that you've lifted the vetting process, I think what we should do is to make it faster so that people can acquire this national identity card so that they're able to do their things. But saying that you've removed it, more so in a very porous area like northeastern Kenya, for me it is, and it's right for people to read politics in it, because now other people are also demanding. I'm told now Western Kenya and part of Migori, they're saying we also want it removed.
Border towns.
But you see now, why was it there in the first place? I think that's a thing that we must ask ourselves. What was the wisdom in having it in the first place? So that we are able to prevent this cross-border movement or migration. You just leave Tanzania, you come to Kenya with your ID, then go back when you want. So I think it's a security issue as much as it's going to be a political issue, so that you can find a whole, you bring a whole location to even vote in a
But in Tanzania, my brother, in Tanzania, by the way, and Kenya, the Maasai, they graze their cattle here and they take them across the border without taking up the national ID of that country. They are allowed. I mean, Somalis from Namanga area, they go all the way to deep Tanzania when it is very dry over here. And the Somalis of Tanzania actually come all the way to Amboseli and they graze their herds of cattle and they take them back. So the issue is not interrelationship between the neighboring countries. The wrong issue here, I think, is actually that blanketly, you know, lifting the ID vetting.
Well, I want to respond to both my colleagues on this issue and possibly tell Kenyans the real issues that are happening here. I believe the government has not lifted vetting entirely. Vetting is a procedural process, and every Kenyan is vetted accordingly. But then there was an extra layer of vetting on the Somali community. This issue must be addressed completely. Now, I want to ask Wakili Nyaribo, because he's my good friend. And do you have a problem with a Kenyan Somali of Kenyan origin getting ID in Nairobi, in Dagoretti, in Namanga, in Kajiado, in Muranga, in Kiambu, because they have all the requirements that is needed to get an identification card? At the moment, we are not getting identification cards here in this part of Kenya because we are Somalis, simply because we are Somalis. We have to go back. We have to go back to our villages, even though we have the requirements that is needed. We have a problem with going to the immigration offices, looking for passport, and then all other Kenyans are told, move this way, and then the Somalis have to go through an extra vetting. You know, these are the issues that affect us.
That is bad. Okay.
These are the issues we need to talk about, you know. And I think the president has not lifted vetting entirely. Let's not politicize this issue. Vetting is there to stay. It is procedural for every Kenyan, okay? But then this extra discrimination on Somalis is what we are fighting. Plus, let me tell you for a fact, every Kenyan knows and every Somali knows that whenever we go to get services from these government offices, we are seen as a walking money. We are seen as a bank, that we are told to wait a little bit so that they can siphon us. They can take bribes from us. They can, you know, intimidate us to get government services simply because we are Somalis. This is what we are fighting, a generational curse in the Kenyan politics and on the Somali people is what we are fighting against. And I think it's only fair that we go down this route without noise.
Imran, I think you should not scandalize the Somali nation for having so much money. I mean, you buy a lot of buildings, you do a lot of good work. I think there's nothing wrong having more money. So.
I understand you also have an engagement. I want to ask you one last question before I release you. Does this, from your standpoint, compromise national security?
Actually, it is a very big concern. A very big concern. What my brother Imran is referring to. And you can look, you can see the nature of this conflict or issue needs broader, debate, even before you can actually blanketly, remove vetting. He's saying a very honest point. If he lives in South Sea or Kilimani and has a wife and gets a child today, do you need to take this newborn baby to Northeastern for vetting? From who? He doesn't even know who in Northeastern can vet. So that is understandable. But we are not here for the first time. You also understand the nature, the demographics, the nature of the people. Like I said, because of the many relatives, you find somebody is here, but he honestly does not speak Swahili. He is 20 years old. You need to ask, okay, so sorry, but did you go to school? He says, yes, I went to school. Where did you go to school? Here in South Sea. Okay, fine. Where's the paper? The paper is not there. So why don't you speak Swahili? Okay, I stayed at home. I never went out. So these issues are honest. They are honest the way Imran is putting it, on the side of that level of discrimination. But they are also honest when the government is trying to understand, who are you? Okay. Know your customer. It's a principle in the banking sector, isn't it? That when you are vetting also, just know the citizen. But I don't agree. I cannot, acquiesce to the possibility of separating people, that if you are Somali, you are taken aside, if you are not. But that cannot just go unchallenged in terms of security of a nation. Because you know what we have undergone. And you know when the intelligence services and the military and the Kenya police and all agencies, when they stood together, we have actually lived close to 5-7 years of some level of peace where we are not being attacked. So this vetting should not blanketly be removed, but systems should be properly put in place and they remove human face. There's the one Imran is saying, they will always ask for money from you. And sometimes you're asking for money actually from a very poor family that doesn't have money at all. So the system should be in place to issue the title themselves, the system. Because if you put a proper system, now we have AI, Miwi, you cannot have the wrong elements and the criminals entering the country. Okay. The issue of security is paramount in terms of when you are issuing the IDs.
Wakili, you wanted to respond to that?
No, I'll pass.
Okay. No, let me say 30 seconds. Where in the law does it say Kiswahili is a requirement to definitively say that you are a Kenyan or you're not a Kenyan? I mean, where is this narrative coming from? I think it's just a political fallacy in the minds of politicians, and that has come and found its way on this panel right now. And I don't want to associate myself with that idea that actually Kiswahili is a requirement for you to be told that you are Kenyan. The Mama Mboga from Muranga that comes to immigration offices is speaking in her own mother tongue, authentically, and by right, she should be speaking in her own mother tongue. Okay. But where there is a translation needed, it's given. And so applies to the person from Eastern and Western and Rift Valley and Nyanza. Why now, when it comes to the Somali community, you have to tell me I have to speak Kiswahili? For what?
All right. I'm told we have run out of time, and there's a very big issue that needs a lot of addressing. But I will give you each a minute to give your final submission. Let me start with you, actually.
Yeah, I think always I believe a country is bigger than an individual or a particular set of people. So I still encourage our head of state to go easy on us, to pick all advice from the people around him, and be honest about wanting to deliver on his promises. And he should not be hurt or bitter with the citizens when they react in a certain way.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so I think for me, I would say we should embrace tolerance. We should appreciate basic rights of individuals, the right to their opinions. So I think that should really not be curtailed when it is not necessary. I think using means to try to muzzle those views, those opinions, I think will only work towards creating an angry country. So I think it is better to give people the platform to air their views without limiting those rights that they have. So I think it's for state agencies, it is for National Police Service. I think we cannot pretend not to know the law. So some of these people have been in the forces for so long. They've been there. So really for you to say you are acting under certain instructions, I think it is wrong. Let's allow people to air their views without intimidation. In that way, then we're able to get a country going forward.
Imran.
I'd like to tell Kenyans the Somali community is a law-abiding community. And we have participated in the Mau Mau rebellion. Actually, part of the finances of the Mau Mau rebellion were Somalis. We have participated in saving this government when the 1982 coup was happening. Somalis are across all political divides. They are in different sectors of the community. They are in business, they are in politics, they are in every single perspective within the structure of this country as a whole. So national security is a national issue. Let's address it at the national level, but let's avoid pointing fingers at the Somali community that they are the only ones causing security problems in this country.
All right. Thank you so much for making time. That is Imran Mohamed, who is a youth leader, Ishmael Nyaribo, who is an advocate of the High Court, and also Ken Odhiambo, an advocate of the High Court, making time here to talk about matters that drive public conversation. This is where we end this segment. My name is Mike Migwe. Stay with us here on Good Morning Kenya. It continues on the other side, that is on radio and TV. Good morning.
Ama mheshimiwa ulikuwa tu Valentine yangu.
Sikia.
Wewe. Kali ni yako.
Hata wewe si yako.
Wewe uko hata na pikipiki.
Wewe hata si yako wewe.
Ngoja, wewe uko hata na basikili. Wewe ndio ulikuwa unataka nikupeleke Valentine.
Mimi unipeleke wapi sasa? Mimi ataenda na wewe wapi?
Nakuuliza wewe ndio ulikuwa unataka nikupeleke.
Habana ya.
Very good. So, who is the who now here? Who is the who?
Who is the you?
Hey, who is the you?
Wewe. Hiyo unamaanisha nini?
Yeye ni nani hapa?
Muulize na Kiswahili.
Jina ingine kama nilifanya vibaya, I'm sorry. And if you want to be my Valentine, mheshimiwa, I'm here.
Mheshimiwa.
Wewe si wewe nimeongelesha. Sitaongelesha, sitakuongelesha.
Hey, wait, no, you can't do that. Listen to me. The best way to treat your ex is to never show up again.
Please take a look and tell us if you think there are any problems.
It's pretty good. You've put a lot of work into it.
It was my parents. They got into a big fight and threatened to divorce.
Why was that? All right, calm down. What are we gonna do now?
Dad? If you need someone to talk to, I'm always here.
How dare you do that to me?
Sorry, I apologize.
Mambo Mbotela ambaye atapumzishwa siku ya Jumamosi katika makaburi ya Lang'ata, na vile pia misa ya wafu itafanyika siku ya Ijumaa katika kanisa la All Saint Cathedral. Lakini yote mtazamaji, hapa ndani ya studio leo hii ndio tunazindua rasmi wiki ya siku ya redio duniani, na kutufungulia hayo si mwingine bali ni katibu katika wizara yetu ya mawasiliano, uchumi wa kidijitali na vile pia utangazaji, ndugu John Tanui ambaye ni mhandisi, yuko ndani ya studio. Karibu sana ndugu yangu ndani ya studio zetu asubuhi ya leo.
Asante sana Rashid, nafurahi sana kuwa na nyinyi siku ya leo tukianzisha wiki ya redio duniani.
Bila shaka, labda kabla kuingia ndani zaidi, naarifiwa kwamba tuna muda wa dakika 30 tu. Alhamisi ulimwengu utaadhimisha siku ya redio duniani, lakini kabla kuingia hapo, KBC jana tulianza sherehe hizi wiki nzima, na nilipata taarifa kwamba leo huenda ukawa hapa. Labda tu kwa heshima na taadhima, mheshimiwa, ni kupatie fursa hii uweze kuzindua rasmi wiki ya redio nchini Kenya kupitia Radio Taifa na KBC Channel 1.
Asante sana Rashid. Tunafurahia sana kazi ambayo redio inafanya duniani nzima. Tuna taarifa ya kwamba zaidi ya redio 45,000 duniani zinahudumia wananchi ama watu wa dunia. About 70% of the population ya dunia wanapata ujumbe kupitia redio. Na siku ya leo hapa Kenya tunasherekea hii wiki na tunaungana na wenzetu duniani nzima kusherekea hii siku na wiki, na niko hapa kwa niaba ya ministry yetu ya Information, Communication na Digital Economy ambayo inaongozwa na waziri wetu William Kapoko, na niko hapa kwa ajili ya kusherekea hii siku kwa hii wiki, na I officially open this celebration ya redio katika nchi yetu, tuweze kusherekea, tuweze kukumbuka safari ambao hii tumekuja tangu 1927 wakati redio ya kwanza hapa nchini ilipowekwa, na tumekuwa mbele katika maneno ya teknolojia na maneno ya redio katika Afrika. Tulikuwa nchi ya 3 ya kuestablish redio. Kwa hivyo Kenya imekuwa mbele katika mambo za teknolojia, maneno za habari na mawasiliano, na ndipo tunafurahi kama ministry kushirikiana na KBC na redio zote ambazo ziko nchini, zaidi ya 300, over 300 radios ikiunganishwa, ya serikali, ya kibinafsi na pia ile tunaita community radios. So I'm very excited nikiwa hapa siku ya leo to officially open wiki ya siku ya redio hapa nchini. Asante sana.
Shukran sana Engineer John Tanui. Kwa hiyo sasa tunaweza piga kelele.
Sawa kabisa.
Wapi nduru wewe? Naam, labda mheshimiwa, kabla kuingia ndani tena zaidi, miaka 2 tangu serikali ya Kenya Kwanza iingie katika mamlaka, labda tu kiufupi utazungumzia vipi kuhusiana na masuala ya ICT katika taifa letu la Kenya?
Kwanza hii serikali ilipokuja utawala iliweka mambo ya mabadiliko ya nchi ama transformation kupitia mambo inaitwa bottom up transformation agenda, ambayo iliweka mambo 5 kama msingi wa mabadiliko wa nchi. Moja ikiwa maneno ya ukulima, ya pili ni kazi ama SMEs, biashara ndoko ziweze kukua, na pia cooperatives. Ya 3 ni maneno za afya, ya 4 ni maneno za affordable housing ama nyumba ambazo iko na bei nafuu, na ya 5 ni maneno ya digital economy ama economy yenye inatumia digitali. Kwa hayo 4-5 things Kenya imeweza kulay foundation in the last 2 years, na tumeona mambo mazuri. Kukiangalia agriculture, tuko na ujumbe mzuri ya kwamba mambo kama sukari ambayo tulikuwa tuna import, sasa tumefikia kiwango sasa tunaanza kuangalia tuta export wapi sukari yetu kutoka kwa wakulima na factory zetu ambao wanatengeneza sukari. Hiyo ni hatua kubwa nzuri sana. Jambo lingine, mahindi ambayo kwa mara nyingi tuna import, sasa tumefikia kiwango ambao hatu import. Sasa tunafika level tunaweza kujitoshelesha kwa hiyo chakula, na hiyo inaendelea. Tuna expect to increase efforts katika value chains nyingi ya agriculture. Ukikuja maneno za housing, hii ndio imekuwa a big challenge kwa nchi yetu kwa miaka nyingi. Vijana wetu wanatoka shule, wanatafuta mahali pazuri pa kukaa, na imekuwa a challenge mpaka tunatumia sehemu ingekuwa ya ukulima kujenga manyumba. Hii project pia open opportunities ya kazi ukiwa na ujuzi ama una ujuzi. Hii kazi ya project ya housing inafungua kazi. Pia kitu kingine muhimu katika housing sasa inafungua opportunities ya manufacturing. Sasa uko na mtu anajenga nyumba 200,300 kwa mwaka, na hiyo inafungua nafasi za factory kuweza meet demands ya housing. So hiyo pia itafungua nafasi za kazi. Ukikuja maneno za havia, hii imekuwa challenge kwa muda mwingi, na sasa hii transformation ya SHA na kuweka digital platform ya kuwezesha kuserve mwananchi inaendelea kukua, na hii itakuwa among some of the best transformation tutakuwa ina kwa nchi. Sasa nikielekea upande wa digitali, tulicommit kwa digital space ya kwamba tutaweza kuendesha ama kuincrease connectivity ya nchi kupitia digital superhighway na fiber, na tulisema tutaongeza 100,000 kilometers ndio tuweze tufikishe fiber katika every ward kwa mashinani kule, na hii tumeendelea vizuri, tumeweza kufanya. Sasa tunaelekea karibu 1800 kilomita 18,000 kilometers ambayo tumeweza kuweka, na tumeweza sasa kubadilisha hata mwenendo. Tunatumia Kenya Power Lines ndio tuweze kufikisha kwa haraka na bei nafuu, na hiyo kazi inaendelea katika nchi nzima. Tuna mpango ya kuhakikisha ofisi zote za serikali, kuanzia ofisi za wafanyia serikali katika counties, regional offices na hata mashule chief's office, wese sote sikuunganishwe na fiber, na mahali haiwezekani tutatumia satellite ndio tuhakikishe karibu offices 74,000 siweze kuunganishwa katika broadband, na tunaendelea na hiyo kazi. Jambo lingine tulisema tunataka serikali ikuwe digital. Mwananchi akitaka huduma ya serikali aweze tu kwenda kwa simu yake, sio lazima asafiri na apate hiyo service. Hiyo tumefanya hatua kubwa sana. Tulipoanza tulikuwa tunatazamia tutafikisha 5,000 services, lakini sasa tumefanya kupita 20,000. Sasa mwananchi anaweza pata huduma karibu sote akiwa kwake, sio lazima asafiri, na hii tuna hesabu kama hatua kubwa sana. Jambo lingine tumefanya, tumekuwa tukiona maneno za kufungua nafasi za kazi. Vijana wetu wengi wamemaliza shule na wanatafuta hali za ajira, lakini duniani nzima digital space ama sehemu ya digitali ndio maana mahali kuna kazi nyingi sana. Rais wetu ameongea katika sehemu mingi akiongea juu ya digital opportunities na digital jobs, na tumeweza kuwezesha kuestablish zaidi ya 280 digital hubs, nyingi zikiwa kwa TVET institutions, na tunafurahi tunapotembelea, tunaposikia vile wanaendelea. Vijana wengi wanaweza kujifunza na wanaweza pata kazi mtandaoni, na wanaweza pata earnings ya dollars, meaning wanapata kazi sio hapa nchini, wanapata kazi za kutoka nje na wanalipwa na dollars. This is a very exciting thing. Zaidi ya hiyo, kuna biashara inaitwa PPO, business process outsourcing. Nchi kama India, Philippines wamekuwa kiongoza sana kwa hiyo kazi. Afrika itaweza ku attract kiasi kikubwa ya hizo kazi, lakini Kenya tumefanya hatua kubwa katika the last 2 years. Tumeweza kuona kampuni kama Samasos wakiendelea kukua. Tumeona CCI wakifungua ofisi huko Tatu City na kuendelea kukua. Na hii Januari tuliweza kupokea ambayo inakuwa number 1 kwa dunia kwa hiyo nafasi za kazi za PPO, inaitwa Teleperformance. Wameweka ofisi huko Two Rivers na wanaanza sasa kuelekea kukua, aim wakuwe na kazi pia 5,000. So tunatazamia hii space in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years itafunguka, na tunaweza kuwa among the leaders kwa Africa, na hata kuweza kwa track wengine waweze kuweka centers ya PPO hapa Kenya ifungue nafasi za kazi. Pia tumeongea na private sector hapa Kenya kama Safaricom na wengine kuweza kufungua kazi zingine mpya, na jambo muhimu ni simu. Kenya tuko na karibu 66 million simu za mkono ambazo tuko. Hizi simu nyingi tumekuwa tukiimport kutoka ng'ambo. Lakini sasa for the last 1 year tumeweza kuona hizi simu zikitolewa hapa nchini. Tumepata karibu simu sasa milioni 2.6 zikitengenezwa hapa nchini. Kampuni 2 ambazo wameziweka hapa ikifungua new industry inaitwa electronics, na hii itafungua kazi za vijana kwa vijana, na pia inaanzisha economy mpya ambayo nchi zingine kama Malaysia ile tumekuwa tukisema Asian Tigers walifanya. Na tumefurahi kufanya hizo hatua. Tunaona manufacturing, tunaona digitization tunafanya, tunaendeleza fiber ifika mashinani, na tunafungua nafasi za kazi.
Alright, mtazamaji, ni kauli yake mhandisi John Tanui, ambaye kama nilivyokuambia, endapo ndo kwa sasa unafungua runinga yako ya KBC Channel 1 ama unafungua KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya, ni msururu wa mahojiano, vipindi kuhusiana na siku ya redio ulimwenguni itakayoadhimishwa Alhamisi ya tarehe 13. Nasi kama shirika la utangazaji nchini, ambapo ndio mwanzilishi wa redio katika taifa la Kenya, tuko katika mstari wa mbele. Mpenzi mtazamaji, kuna vipindi vingi sana tumekuandalia, makala mengi, mahojiano kuhusiana na siku ya redio. Na kama awali, katibu wetu katika wizara hii tayari amekwisha zindua hafla hii chini ya mwamvuli wa shirika la utangazaji hii leo rasmi, mtazamaji. Na kama waweza kumsikia, nimegusia tu kidogo kuhusiana na wizara yake, na amezungumzia mambo mengi tu sana, mojawapo ikiwa ni masuala ya hizi digital hubs kote nchini. Na nimemwona mara nyingi sana kule kwetu Mombasa, Swahili Port Hub, na vile pia amezungumzia kuhusiana na swala zima la simu, ambapo kumbe taifa la Kenya lina simu takriban milioni 66, na ametuambia kwamba simu milioni 2.6 kwa sasa zimezunduliwa katika taifa letu la Kenya. Ni mambo ya kupendeza. Vile pia kumbuka, ametujuza katika taifa la Kenya, mbali na redio ya serikali, redio taifa, kuna vituo 300 vya redio. Mtazamaji, kumbuka redio nchini Kenya ilianzishwa mwaka wa 1927, wakati ule ikijulikana kama EABC, East African Broadcasting Corporation, tukiwa chini ya mbeberu mweupe, yani mzungu. Lakini baadaye kumbuka ikaitwa VOK, alafu mwaka wa 1989 basi ikaregeshwa KBC kupitia Act of Parliament. Labda tunirudi kwako Mheshimiwa Tanui. Historia ya KBC kifupi tu, kama redio ya serikali na iliyoanzishwa miaka mingi, unaweza ukaizungumzia vipi kwa kifupi?
Kwanza na shukuru KBC kwa sababu ya historia ndefu ambayo imeweza live, because kwa Afrika vile tumejua ni nambari 3 kuestablishiwa, so imeweka Kenya ama nchi yetu mbele katika Afrika. Pia tumeweza kuwa na watangazaji ambao wameweka msingi imara katika KBC, ambao tunawakumbuka kama Steven Kikumu, na mwenye wengi tunapenda na tulimjua sana Leonard Mambo Mbotela, ambao tumempoteza, na waliweka msingi mzuri kwa nchi yetu katika maneno za telecommunications ama habari na mawasiliano. Na pia katika nchi yetu tumeona hiyo crowd kuanzia ikiwa radio moja 1927 na sasa tukiwa na 300 community radios. Sisi kama nchi tunafurahi sana kwa kuwa hii imeweza kutimiza kazi, kusaidia serikali, kusaidia mabiashara, kusaidia elimu, kuhakikisha watu wetu wanapata habari kwa haraka. Tunaelezwa zamani habari zilikuwa zinasafirishwa kupitia meli, because hiyo ndio ilikuwa news, international news ingepitishwa kwa meli siweze kufika nchi kama Kenya, Tanzania na zingine. Na kukua kwa teknolojia ya mawasiliano, sikakuja maneno za satellite, sikakuja maneno ya radio yenye unaweza pitisha kwa hewa, ikaweza rahisisha vile news inatoka kwa sehemu nyingine mpaka nyingine. Hadi sasa tuko na digital platform. Tunakumbuka hivi juzi, sio miaka nyingi, tukakuwa na transformation ya digital migration katika radio sector, na Kenya iliweza kufanya hii, na pia tumeweza kuona rise ya community radios. Umesema hata huko Mombasa nilikuwa Swahili Pot. Tunahusiana sana kwa maneno ya innovation na maneno ya digitali, na pia wako na Swahili Pot FM radio ambayo niliweza kutembelea na kuongea na nchi nzima. Tumeona communication ikikuwa focus hata kwa regional ama community space. So siku ya leo tukianza hii wiki ya siku ya radio dunia, tunataka kuwahimiza wale wote wanahusika na maneno ya radio ya kwamba waendeleze hiyo msingi nzuri ambao walioanzisha kama kina Leonard Mambo Potela na wengine waliweka msingi ya heshima, msingi ya utu, ya kuhakikisha the foundations ya nchi inaendelea, patriotism ikiwa ikizingatiwa, na pia education, kuhakikisha watoto wetu wapate elimu. Tulikuwa na hizo programs kama Jeu ni Ungwana ya Leonard Mambo Potela. Wengi wetu tulisikiza na iliweza kutupea mwelekezo, na tunataka wanahusika wote katika redio waendelee kufanya hii kazi nzuri ya kusaidia nchi yetu na kuhakikisha ujumbe na information na culture yetu inaendelezwa vizuri.
Labda tu engineer Tanui, kuna swala muhimu sana linajitokeza kwamba tunapoadhimisha siku ya redio vile vile pia huwa kuna theme. Kumbuka pia Rais Daktari William Ruto ameanzisha mfumo kwamba kila siku kuu kama ni Mashujaa Day, Jamhuri Day na vile vile pia Madaraka Day huwa kuna kauli mbiu inayoambatana na sherehe hii, na kauli mbiu ya kuadhimisha siku ya redio duniani ni redio na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Sijui utazungumzia vipi kuhusiana hivi? Wenyewe wazungu wakauliza labda redio ime-enable vipi masuala ya climate change.
Asante sana Rashid. Rais wetu aliweza kuweka some programs ya kuhakikisha tunaweza address ile challenges kubwa zina face dunia. Jambo la muhimu ina face dunia ni mabadiliko sa climate.
Yes.
Tumeweza kuwa na wakati tuko na drought ama hakuna mvua kwa muda mrefu. Tumeona pia wakati nyingine tunapata mvua ya kupita kiasi, tunaweza kuwa na floods, na hizo ndio maneno inakuwa climate change. Tumeweza kuona mapato katika kilimo ama hata ile ya livestock, watu wakipoteza mali yao. Na hiyo ikakuwa changamoto kubwa sana, na serikali ya rais wetu ikaamua kuinitiate a major program. Hiyo ilianzishwa mwisho wa 2022 ya kutarget kupanda miti bilioni 15, ikiwa ya kuweza kuongeza asilimia ya land enye iko kwa forest ama tree cover from 12% to 30%. Kwa kuwa tukiweza kuwezesha hivyo tutaweza kureduce impacts ya climate change. So hiyo program imeendelea, kila wizara imepewa targets, kila wizara imeadopt forest. Kama ministry yetu tuko huko Kisii County na Nandi County, so kila wakati kuna mvua tunaenda kule, tunapanda miti, tunahusiana na community hapo na county governments, na kila wizara inafanya hiyo mpango, na pia ministry yenye inahusika na hiyo kazi pia wanaendelea, na tunahimiza wananchi wetu, kila mmoja wetu aweze kuendelea kufanya hii kama contribution ya nchi yetu na ya dunia, na hata kwa hii World Radio Day ya 2025 tuweze kutumia nafasi kupanda miti, tuweze kuaddress, kwa sababu theme ni climate change, na one of the solutions ni kupanda miti, tuweze kuzuia hii madhara za climate change.
Bila shaka, asante sana. Labda wapigie picha wangu hapa. Kamera ya PS ni gani? Ni hii hapa. Bwana PS, naomba uangalie hii kamera hapa. Na tunapoadhimisha wiki ya redio ulimwenguni, tumempoteza mtangazaji mkongwe wa redio. Naomba pia uangalie kamera hapa uweze kutoa rambirambi zako katika siku ya leo.
Kwa familia ya mpendo wetu Leonard Mambo Potela, tunaungana na nyinyi tukisema pole kwa kupoteza mpendwa wenyu. Pia katika jamii wote wa radio community tunawaambia pole, na zaidi tunasema tumejifunza mengi kutoka Leonard Mambo Potela, akiwa kiongozi, akiwa mfanyikazi wa serikali ambaye alijitolea. Maisha yake ni mfano mzuri kwetu wengi tuweze kufanya kazi vile alifanya, na pia kwa miaka yenye alikuwa kwa service. Wengi tunafanya kazi kidogo tunachoka, lakini yeye alijitolea kabisa na alikuwa mzalendo kabisa na mtu wa hutu, na aliweza kutufunza mengi, tujifunze kutoka maisha yake na pia tuweze kuendeleza ile mfano na msingi ambayo alitoa. Na naomba the young people wenye wako katika the communication space, because nafasi ya communication sasa imefunguka sana, sio radio peke yake, sio TV. Sasa tuko na social media platform ama tunaita digital platform. Tuweze kutumia hizo digital platforms tukijua tumepewa uwezo mkubwa sana. Uwezo wa kuongea kwa radio, kwa TV ni nafasi kubwa sana, na tunatakiwa tutumie kwa uangalifu kuweza kujenga, sio kubomoa, kuweza kuinua, sio kushukisha, na tuweze kupeleka nchi yetu isonge mbele, ibadilike, tukue nchi ya heshima kama vile nchi tumeona kama za Korea, Malaysia, China na hata Europa ambao wameweza kujenga nchi yetu. Vijana wetu Leonard Mambo Potela ni mfano mzuri kwetu sisi sote. Asante.
Asante mtazamaji, kufikia hapo sina budi kutamatisha awamu hii. PS alikuwa na wasiwasi tulipokuwa tunapiga naye story kuhusiana na Kiswahili, lakini namuona amezungumza Kiswahili bila shida, hata amewashinda wengine. Ben Kamuti sidhani kama hata unamshinda PS kwa Kiswahili. Mtazamaji, naomba tu niachie hapo kwa sasa, lakini shukran sana kwa wale wote ambao mmefanikisha ziara ya katibu ndani ya studio. Asante sana mkuu wa idara bwana Martin Kingasia Nyongesa, nasema ni director. Asante sana vile vile pia Geoffrey Onditi. Asanteni sana wapiga picha wangu hapa ndani ya studio, vile vile pia msaidizi wa PS. Asanteni sana mafundi wa mitambo upande wa radio. Nasema shukran sana, mmepeleka kitu speedy mpaka mimi nikajua yes leo nimepatikana. Lakini hivi punde tunarudi tena mtazamaji, usiende mbali. Hii ni KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji nchini. Hapa ndo nyumbani kwa radio, asikwambie mtu.
Kwa nini lakini mwanamke utesa moyo wangu? Kwa nini lakini? Leo nitakumaliza.
Nuru, mimi kama kiongozi wenu, mimi nawaahidi kwamba nitawajengea hospitali nyingine.
Kamwambie kama hakukupata wakati ule, sasa ndo hawezi kukupata kabisa.
Mimi nimesema tu leo nitalala kwa Karembo.
Jua tu kwamba kuna kitu muhimu kimepotea humu nyumbani.
Nini basi na kimpotea wapi?
Nakuuliza pete yangu iko wapi?
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. People don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
no, you can't do that. Listen to me. The best way to treat your ex is to never show up again.
Please take a look and tell us if you think there are any problems.
It's pretty good. You've put a lot of work into it.
It was my parents. They got into a big fight and threatened to divorce.
Why was that?
All right, calm down. What are we gonna do now?
Dad? If you need someone to talk to, I'm always here.
How dare you do that to me?
Sorry, I apologize.
Kwa nini lakini wewe mwanamke utesa moyo wangu? Kwa nini lakini? Leo nitakumaliza.
Nuru, mimi kama kiongozi wenu, mimi nawaahidi kwamba nitawajengea hospitali nyingine.
Kamwambie kama hakukupata wakati ule, sasa ndo hawezi kukupata kabisa.
Mimi nimesema tu leo nitalala kwa Karembo.
Jua tu kwamba kuna kitu muhimu kimepotea humu nyumbani.
Nini basi na kimpotea wapi?
Nakuuliza pete yangu iko wapi?
Mtazamaji, karibu tena ndani ya station unayoenzi ya KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya, ikishirikiana na KBC Channel 1. Kumbuka, Jumanne wa vipindi ni viwili, ni kama mama kazaa pacha, kazaa Radio Taifa Zinga na kazaa GMK Channel 1 TV. Mtazamaji, karibu tena, na tumekwambia tayari PS John Tanui ametubariki kwamba hii wiki ni wiki ya kuweza kusherehekea radio kama anavyosema mwenzangu Dora. Tupige kelele ya redio mpaka watu wajue hii ni redio, na ama kweli hii ni redio. Naona redio sasa imezaa TV. Si namna hiyo ama namna gani my friend? Mtazamaji, ni siku ya redio duniani, itaadhimishwa tarehe 13 Alhamisi Februari mwaka wa 2025. Siku hii ilianzishwa na shirika la Umoja wa Mataifa UNESCO mwaka wa 2011. Hapa katika shirika la utangazaji nchini KBC kutakuwa na sherehe mpwito za kuadhimisha siku hii ambayo ni muhimu sana. Kumbuka hapo jana, tunashukuru mpenzi mtazamaji, tulianza sherehe hizi rasmi. Shirika la utangazaji nchini KBC lina redio mbalimbali. Mtazamaji, umeweza kusikia hapa John Tanui katibu akizungumzia kuhusiana na redio za kijamii. Zipo kwa mfano, tuna stesheni ya Ngemi FM kule Embu, wanatusikiliza vizuri. Shoro FM kule maeneo ya Mount Kenya Murima, wanaisikiliza vizuri. Minto FM kunazozalishwa ndizi kubwa Kisii, wanatusikiliza vizuri. Kitwek FM kule Kalenjin Community, mtazamaji, tunasikika. Mwatu FM maeneo ya Ukambani tunasikika. Mwago FM kule maeneo ya Meru tunasikika. Pwani FM Mijikenda kule Pwani tunasikika. Mayenga FM kule Luo Nyanza tunasikika. Ingo FM kule maeneo ya Ubaluyani, mpenzi mtazamaji, magharibi KBC iko. 15 FM kaskazini mashariki tunasikika. Nosim FM kule Masaini tunasikika, na vile pia kuna Eastern Service na Kisumu stations ambapo kuna zile sub tribes pia tunasikika. Mtazamaji, redio bila shaka ni chombo ambacho kimetumika kwa miaka mingi kuelimisha, kujulisha na kufunza mambo mengi ya maendeleo. Watangazaji kama vile marehemu Leonard Mambo Mbotela umetekeleza majukumu mengi na muhimu katika kuhakikisha maendeleo ya taifa hili. Kwa mfano, kutupa taka ovyo ni kuharibu mazingira, na jamani, nauliza, huo ni ungwana? Mwaka huu siku ya redio itasisitiza mchango wa chombo hiki katika kukabiliana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi ama climate change. Je, wanahabari na wadau wengine muhimu wanatumia vipi redio, kwa njia zipi kufahamisha msikilizaji, mtazamaji, kuhusu mabadiliko ya tabia nchi ambayo kwa sasa imekuwa changamoto kubwa kwa maendeleo ya taifa hili, Afrika kwa ujumla na duniani kote. Mwaka wa 2025 mtazamaji, ni muhimu sana. Chini ya mkataba wa Paris, UNESCO imetoa wito kwa vyombo vya habari habari, kuzingatia utangazaji unaozingatia ukweli na pia unaozingatia mabadiliko ya tabia nchi kama sehemu ya huduma yao kwa umma. Hivi leo tunaangazia jinsi redio inavyochangia uhamasisho wa mabadiliko ya tabia nchi au climate change. Ili kutusaidia kuelewa hili kwa undani, leo tuna wageni wawili. Bila shaka, bila kupoteza nukta, sekunde wala dakika, wanasema ladies first. Irene Moga, mshirikishi wa kikanda na mipango ya mageuzi ya kidijitali Afrika katika shirika la Umoja wa Mataifa la mazingira UNEP. Karibu Bi Irene.
Asante sana mtangazaji.
Uko salama kabisa?
Niko salama sana.
Karibu sana, hapa ndio redio ilianzia.
Nashukuru.
Kwa hiyo jihisi uko nyumbani. Na vile vile pia upande wangu hapa ni naye ndugu Amos Wemanya kutoka shirika la Greenpeace Africa, watunzi wa mazingira. Bila shaka karibu sana.
Shukran.
Uko chonjo kabisa?
Kabisa. Tayari.
Uko tayari kupiga kelele ya redio?
Niko tayari.
Na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi?
Kuzungumzia haya maswala.
Bila shaka. Labda tu nikianza nawe Bi Irene, kama bingwa wa kupambana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi ama mahali ya hewa, tusaidie kuelewa kile ambacho mmekuwa mkifanya kuhusu hatua ya kupunguza athari za mabadiliko ya tabia nchi kutoka pale shirika lenu la UNEP.
Nashukuru ndugu mtangazaji. Kama shirika la UNEP tumefanya jitihada kadha wa kadha katika kuhakikisha kwamba tabia nchi na tahadhari zake zinapunguzwa. Moja ni kusaidia nchi katika miongozo, sera na kuweka majukwaa ambapo nchi mbalimbali na jumuiya mbalimbali za Kenya pamoja na kushirikishana na nchi zingine zinaweza kujadili na kushare experience kwamba wenzetu wamefanya nini na sisi tunaweza tukafanya nini. Kwa hiyo katika majadiliano hayo tunaweza kuboresha pia utengenezaji wa sera, miongozo na kuhakikisha kwamba Kenya inakuwa kinara katika kuboresha utunzaji wa mazingira. Tumekuwa pia tukitoa takwimu na taarifa mbalimbali kwamba mabadiliko ya tabia nchi yanaweza kuwa na athari mbalimbali, kwa hivyo nchi zichukue tahadhari. Kwa hiyo upatikanaji wa takwimu na taarifa umesaidia nchi katika kujiandaa ili hata kama kutakuwa na majanga basi yasiwe kwa kasi kubwa.
Mtazamaji, mimi huwa najifahiri na Kiswahili, lakini hapa kwa Irene nimepiga saluti. Nikirudi kwa ndugu, Kenya iliwasilisha mpango wake wa utekelezaji wa mpango wa kukabiliana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, ule mkataba wa Paris, ambapo yalikuwa jana ile makubaliano. Kuna wale ambao wanauliza, je, Kenya iko katika hatua gani kufikia mpango kuhusu mabadiliko ya tabia nchi?
Ukiangalia mipango ambayo Kenya imewasilisha ni mipango ambayo iko ambitious. Ukiangalia tunaangazia kutunza misitu yetu, kuangazia mambo ya kawi, tunaangazia vile tunaweza saidia jamii zetu ziweze kukabiliana na changamoto ambazo zinaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Swala ambalo limekuwa changamoto sana kwa mataifa ya Afrika na ikiwemo kama Kenya ni utozaji wa fedha kutoka kwa nchi ambazo zimestawi ili kuweza kusaidia nchi kama Kenya kuweza kuafikia hii mipango ambayo imewasilisha, kwa sababu kuwasilisha mipango ni njia moja tu, lakini ukiangalia mataifa mengi ya Kiafrika wakati yanapowasilisha hiyo mipango huwa yanaeleza kwamba tunaweza fadhili kiwango fulani cha hii mipango na kiwango kingine tutategemea ufadhili ambao unatoka mataifa ambayo yamestawi. Kwa miaka mingi sana huu ufadhili haujakuwa ukikuja. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu kwamba wakati Kenya imewasilisha haya malengo yake ya kuweza kudhibiti mabadiliko, madhara ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, iangalie pia rasilimali gani ambazo tunaweza leta pamoja kama nchi ili kuweza kuafikia haya malengo.
Ni sauti yake ndugu Amos Wemanya kutoka shirika la Greenpeace. Nikirudi kwako Irene Moga, mpango wa mazingira wa Umoja wa Mataifa almaarufu UNEP na mashirika mengine yanaweza kuchukua jukumu gani katika kuongeza uwezo wa redio kushughulikia masuala mabadiliko ya hali ya hewa kwa ufanisi zaidi?
Nashukuru ndugu mtangazaji. Kubwa kabisa ni kujengea uwezo wanahabari katika kuripoti taarifa za mazingira, kwa sababu taarifa za mazingira zimejaa technical words nyingi sana. Ukiongelea tabia nchi, ukiongelea mmomonyoko. Kwa hivyo mpango wa UNEP inasaidia katika kujenga uwezo wa wanahabari kuripoti kwa lugha ambayo ni nyepesi na inaweza ikaeleweka kwa wananchi. Pili ni kusaidia kutoa taarifa na takwimu sahihi, kwa sababu tafiti mbalimbali zinafanyika na UNEP na wadau mbalimbali. Kwa hivyo tunachoweza kufanya ni kuhakikisha kwamba mnapata zile taarifa na takwimu ili muweze kuziripoti kwa wananchi. Lakini tatu, tunaweza pia tukashirikiana kwa jukwaa kama hili kushare experience kwamba ili Kenya iende mbele, basi jirani amefanya hivi na nyinyi mnaweza mkaiga. Lakini mwisho kabisa ni kuweza pia kuwakutanisha na wanahabari wa kimataifa, muweze kuona wanavyoripoti na kuangalia ninyi mnaweza mkachukua mbinu gani na nyenzo gani ambazo wengine wametumia katika uhamasishaji kwenye jamii zao, na mkaangalia mnaweza kuiga ama kuboresha ili kuweza kuongeza hamasa katika uwasilishaji wa taarifa zenu.
Na Bi Irene, zaidi ya hayo, redio inawezaje kuboresha ufahamu wa umma wa matatizo haswa yanayozunguka swala zima la mazingira?
Redio ina mchango mkubwa sana katika kuhakikisha jamii inaelewa kuhusu mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Moja ni kutoa taarifa, kwa sababu tunasikiliza, tunaangalia mafuriko yanatokea wapi, mmomonyoko unatokea wapi. Kwa hiyo kutoa taarifa ni jukumu moja, lakini pia redio inaweza kutumika kama chombo kikubwa sana cha uhamasishaji. Unapoambia watu usitupe takataka, usitupe mifuko ya plastiki, usitumie njia sahihi za kilimo, redio ni mhamasishaji mkubwa. Lakini tatu, pia redio ni jukwaa la kuleta jamii mbalimbali pamoja. Unaweza kuleta jamii ambazo zimetumia mbinu mbalimbali pengine za kudhibiti plastiki, kilimo bora. Wengine wakasikiliza wakasema, jamii ya watu wa pwani wamefanya hivi, basi na sisi watu wa ziwani tunaweza tukafanya nini? Jukwaa hilo linaweza kuratibiwa na redio tu. Kwa hiyo mchango wenu ni mkubwa sana kwa watu kuweza kubadilika iwapo mnatumia njia sahihi na takwimu sahihi na taarifa sahihi.
Bila shaka, shukrani sana Bi Irene. Nikirudi kwako ndugu yangu Amos Wemanya kutoka Greenpeace Africa, mipango ya kukabiliana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, labda ni changamoto zipi ambazo pale Green Africa nyinyi mmeweza kukumbana nazo, na tueleze iwapo kuna mafanikio yoyote?
Utapata kwamba vile Bi Irene amesema, utapata kwamba saa zingine jamii ambazo zimeathiriwa sana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi hazipati taarifa kwa njia ambayo ni inafaa. Kwa sababu si kila mara wakati tunapokuwa na mafuriko yabadilike kuwa janga. Ikiwa hizi jamii zinaweza kuwa zikipata taarifa mapema, zinaweza kujiandaa na kuweza kudhibiti changamoto ambazo zinaweza kuwa zinaletwa na masuala ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi kama vile ukame, mafuriko na mengineyo. Kwa hivyo taarifa ni ya maana sana. Na hii ndio tunapitia changamoto mingi, kwa sababu masuala ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi hayako katika mainstream media. Ukiangalia media saa zingine huwa iangazii sana masuala ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Ndio sababu tunafurahi kwamba katika kuadhimisha siku ya redio, UNESCO imeweka kipaumbele masuala ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, kwa sababu masuala ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi ni masuala ya maendeleo. Ukiangalia hapa Kenya na hata Afrika, madhara ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi yanarudisha nyuma sana maendeleo ya jamii zetu. Kwa hivyo kama tutatumia vyombo kama vile redio na kuweza kuwa tukitoa taarifa ya mapema kwa jamii zetu, tutakuwa tunawasaidia sana ili kuweza kudhibiti makali ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Ingine ni kuungana. Unapata kwamba hatujaungana sana. Ndio kazi ambayo Greenpeace Africa inafanya sana, kuleta pamoja washikadau wengi ili tuweze kuungana, tulete pamoja strengths zetu. Wale ambao wanaweza toa takwimu kama vile UNEP watutolee takwimu, wale ambao wanaweza kuwa wanatoa taarifa kama vyombo vya taarifa, ili tuweze kuwa tukipata mpango ambao ni wa kipamoja, mpango ambao ni wa kuungana ili kudhibiti makali ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Kuungana ni muhimu sana.
Naam. Manikumbusha mambo ya 4K Club. Nikirudi kwako Bi Irene, Kenya na Afrika kwa kiasi kikubwa sana zimeweza kufaidika na ufadhili wa masuala ya mabadiliko ya hali ya hewa kutoka mataifa ya magharibi. Hivi majuzi tu ambapo alipochukua hatamu ya pili, Rais wa Marekani Donald Trump alitangaza nia yake ya kuiondoa Marekani kwenye mkataba wa Paris. Je, kama Afrika tutaathiriwa vipi moja kwa moja na kuondoka kwao?
Ni swali zuri na swali la wakati husika kabisa. Bado tuko kwenye uchakataji wa taarifa na kuangalia foresight zinasemaje kwamba taifa moja likitoka tutaathirika vipi. Tutaathirika kwanza kwa ufadhili ambapo baadhi ya mifuko ya fedha ambayo inaratibiwa na Marekani hutoa fedha, mfano Green Financing Facility huratibiwa na Marekani, kwa hivyo fedha zitapungua. Lakini athari zake si kubwa kwa sababu mataifa mengine bado yameshikamana na bado miongozo na sera na utekelezaji unaendelea. Kwa hivyo pengine athari hizi tutaziona kwa muda mfupi, lakini zitakuwa hapo mbeleni wakati wa kuandika proposal kwa ajili ya kupata ufadhili kutoka mashirika ya Marekani.
Na kwenye swali hilo nikirudi kwako ndugu Amos Wemanya, je, labda Kenya na mataifa kadhaa ya Afrika ili kuepuka kutegemea zaidi nchi za kimagharibi kwa ufadhili wa kukabiliana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi kama vile mafuriko na ukame ulivyotaja, tunafaa kufanya nini?
Ukiangalia bara la Afrika liko na potential mingi sana katika kawi, katika rasilimali. Tuko na rasilimali za kutosha ambazo tunaweza kuwa tunazitumia kusaidia jamii ambazo zinaathirika na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi kuweza kudhibiti haya makali. Jambo ambalo mataifa mengi Afrika huwa haifanyi ni kwamba tumezoea kuwa tukipeana rasilimali zetu kwa njia ambayo ni raw materials. Ni vizuri mataifa ya Kiafrika ya kuja pamoja, yaunde soko la pamoja la Kiafrika ili kuweza kuwa tukiongeza value kwa hizi rasilimali ambazo tuko nazo. Wakati tunaziuza kwa mataifa ya nje, tunaziuza zikiwa na high value. Lakini wakati ambapo tunauza raw materials, tunapoteza sana, kwa sababu unapata kwamba nchi za Kiafrika zina import vitu ambavyo vimeundwa na vimeongezwa value na zinakuwa bei ghali. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu mataifa ya Kiafrika yaungane ili kupata soko hapa Afrika na kuungana ili kuongeza value kwa rasilimali zetu wakati tunapofanya biashara na wengine. Kuongezea tu kwa lile swali ambalo uliuliza dada yangu Irene. Kujiondoa kwa Marekani katika mkataba wa Paris kuna peana nafasi mwafaka sana kwa mataifa mengine na yakiwemo mataifa ya Kiafrika kuangalia ndani. Ukiangalia sana mara mingi Marekani imekuwa ikipinga masuala ambayo ni ya maendeleo katika mikataba hii. Na hata rasilimali Marekani haijakuwa ikitoa rasilimali kubwa sana. Kwa mfano mpango wa loss and damage fund ambayo iliratibiwa kule Sharm el-Sheikh. Wakati mataifa yalikuwa yakipledge, Marekani ambalo ni taifa kubwa ambalo limechangia pakubwa sana katika mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, ilitoa only 17.5 million kwenda katika kile kikapu cha loss and damage. Ukiangalia na yale ambayo yalikuwa yanatolewa na mataifa mengine, unaona kwamba Marekani huwa inatoa chini sana. Kwa hivyo Marekani haijakuwa kipaumbele katika kusaidia mataifa kama vile ya Kiafrika kudhibiti mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Na kujiondoa kwake kunatoa wakati mwafaka Afrika kuweza kujistahimili, kuweza kujiangalia na kuweza kuunda uwezo wake kuliko badala ya kutegemea mataifa nje.
Ndio. Bila shaka mtazamaji, zimesalia dakika 17 kuweza kutimia saa 3 asubuhi saa za kanda ya Afrika ya Mashariki. Endapo labda ndo kwa sasa umeamka na kuamua kuichagua KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya, kipindi hewani ni Zinga, na ndani ya studio niko naye Bi Irene Mwoga, mshirikishi wa kikanda wa mipango ya mageuzi ya kidijitali Afrika katika shirika la Umoja wa Mataifa la mazingira UNEP, na vile vile pia niko naye ndugu Amos Wemanya kutoka shirika la Greenpeace Africa, tukiweza kufungua ukurasa wa wiki ya redio chini ya shirika la utangazaji nchini KBC. Kumbuka mtazamaji, Alhamisi ya tarehe 13 ulimwengu utaadhimisha siku ya redio kote duniani, na kauli mbiu ya mwaka huu ni redio na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Ndiposa sisi kama Radio Taifa, Channel 1 KBC na vile shirika zima kwa upana tunazungumzia masuala haya. Labda nikirudi tena kwenu wageni wangu hapa ndani ya studio, nikirudi kwako Bi Irene. Amezungumza kwamba mainstream media haiangazii sana masuala ya mazingira kote ulimwenguni, na kwamba mwaka huu tumepatiwa redio vile vile pia na kauli mbiu redio na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Je, redio ina jukumu gani katika mapambano yanaendelea dhidi ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, Bi Irene?
Nashukuru ndugu mtangazaji. Redio ni chombo muhimu sana katika kupambana na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Japo tunasema mainstream media haifikii sana jamii, lakini mnaweza pia mkatumia njia za kuibua chipukizi, ama tunasema key players in the communities. Mnaweza mkaweza kuwapa taarifa na wao wakawa chachu kwenye jamii zao. Lakini redio pia, kwa sababu kule vijijini watu hawasomi magazeti ama hawana smartphone, kwa hivyo wanakaa wanasikiliza redio. Unakuta kuna mkulima yuko shambani lakini redio inalia. Kwa hivyo jukumu lako ni kuhakikisha kwamba taarifa inasambaa kwa jinsi inavyotakikana, lakini pia taarifa inasambaa kwa lugha nyepesi ambayo mwananchi anaweza akaelewa. Wakati tunasherekea wiki ya redio na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, tunaomba pia redio muweze kuenda kwa vijana. Vijana ni chachu kubwa ya mabadiliko kwa jamii. Vijana wako katika uko mashinani, na tunaweza produce content yetu kwa jinsi ambavyo itamfikia kijana, itamfikia mzee, itamfikia mtoto. Mabasi ukitupa takataka utamwambia lugha gani nyepesi. Kwa hivyo ni jinsi utakavyoweza kucreate content yako, lakini tusichoke kutumia mashirika ambayo yanatoa taarifa National Environment, tuna Meteorological Authority, tuna mashirika ya kitaifa na kimataifa. Tutumie wataalam kuweza kuangalia ni topic gani zinashika kasi kwa wakati huu, tuweze kuboresha taarifa zetu, kwa sababu taarifa ya jana mabadiliko ya tabia nchi si ya leo. Tumeona moto unatokea kule Marekani. Kwa hiyo lazima tuwe mbele, turipoti taarifa za sasa kutokana na mambo ya sasa.
Na vile vile pia kama cheo chako tu mipango ya mageuzi, umesema kwamba vijana ni chachu kubwa katika kuboresha mazingira. Vipi tutatumia sekta hii ama idara hii ya kidijitali, kwa sababu kwa sasa ulimwengu uko kwenye kiganja cha mkono wetu?
Kwa kweli ni kutumia vifaa vya kidijitali kuweza kwanza kukusanya taarifa na kutoa taarifa. Sisi tuna kidijitali kuhamasisha za kutumia smart farming methods, aweze tu kutumia smartphone yake na kuweza kujua wapi masoko yapo, ubora wa soil ukoje, na kuweza kujua vifaa vya kidijitali vina play part sana, hasa kwa vijana. Na pia tunahakikisha kwamba tuhimize matumizi ya kidijitali kwa ajili ya kutoa taarifa ambazo pia hazitii hofu sana, kwa sababu pia mabadiliko ya tabia nchi wakati mwingine yanafanya watu wakafifia mioyo, wakasema pengine bahari inazidi kiwango cha dunia, visiwa vinazama. Lakini jinsi gani tutaweza kuweka ile taarifa yetu kwa lugha ambayo ni nyepesi, kwa kutumia dijitali, kwa kutumia infographic, kwa ili kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba jamii mbalimbali zinapata taarifa kupitia viganja vyao.
Bila shaka nikirudi kwako ndugu, kuna jumla ya redio 1045 kote ulimwenguni, kumaanisha kwamba redio ni kitu muhimu sana. Hivi tunavyozungumza kupitia runinga na redio, utakaomfikia kuliko kwenye runinga. Inasemekana kwamba sekunde moja mamilioni ya wasikilizaji Je, wanahabari wa redio ya habari za ukweli zinazohusiana na hali ya hewa ili kuelimisha, kufahamisha na ni Kenya na Afrika. Ameweza kuzungumzia swala zuri kwamba watu waende na usasa. Tunaripoti vitu ambavyo viko current. Kwako ndugu yangu.
Ukiangalia siku hizi vya kidijitali ambapo wanahabari wanaweza tumia kuweza kuverify takwimu ambazo zinatolewa ili kuhakikisha kwamba taarifa ambayo wanatoa ni taarifa ambayo ni ya hakika kwa wasikilizaji. Vifaa hivi ni vingi sana, viko katika mitandao ambapo unaweza angalia na kuverify kwamba ile taarifa ambayo unatoa ni ya hakika. Lakini pia kuna makundi na asasi za kijamii ambazo ziko na wataalamu ambao pia wanaweza tumika kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba taarifa ambayo inatolewa ni ya kisawa, yakiwemo wataalamu kama vile dada yangu hapa, mimi mwenyewe na wengine katika jamii zetu ambao wamejifunza na wanashughulika sana na mambo haya ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Kwa hivyo, kwa sababu ni vyema kupeana taarifa ambayo ni ya hakika, kwa sababu kwa mfano ukiambia jamii kwamba kutakuwa na mafuriko, ni vyema ukue umetumia vifaa vingi vya kisasa na kiteknolojia ili kuweza kujua kwamba ukweli kuna uhakika fulani kwamba mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, mafuriko yanakuja ama kutakuwa na ukame, ili waweze kuwa wanajiandaa. Kwa sababu ukitoa taarifa ambayo sio ya hakika, huwa inatoa imani ya wasikilizaji katika taarifa ambazo wanahabari wanatoa.
Okay. Amezungumzia swala la kutokuwa na imani, na baadhi ya wasikilizaji kanikumbusha kitu Bi Irene. Kuna wakati mmoja mzee mmoja kutoka kijijini kwetu alinipigia simu akaniambia, nimesikia kwenye taarifa zenu za habari kwamba huku mwambao wa pwani kutakuwa na rasha za mvua, lakini kumekuwa na jua kali sana. Mimi ni mwanahabari wa redio na ni mwanahabari mchanga. Labda katika kuelezea wasikilizaji juu ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi au hali ya hewa kwa ukweli na sawa kabisa, ni vitu gani ambavyo tunafaa kuzingatia? Ndio umetaja kwamba kuna wakati ambapo tunaweza tukasource taarifa zetu kutoka kwa idara husika, lakini je, sisi tunaoenukia wanahabari wa redio chipukizi katika kulidhihirisha hilo, unatushauri vipi ama unatushajihisha vipi?
Kwa kweli kama mwanahabari lazima kila siku uwe mtu wa kusoma. Naam. Kuhakikisha kwamba unaangalia hizo taarifa, lakini pia katika uripotiji wako wa habari lazima uambie haya ni makisio. Inawezekana kabisa satellite zipo zimesema kwamba kesho kutakuwa na mvua ya milimita fulani ukanda fulani, na isitokee. Kwa hivyo tunaporipoti taarifa za habari, hata tunapoangalia weather forecast, hatusemi kwamba ni 100%. Kwa hiyo lazima tunavyoripoti tuweze pia kuandaa wasikilizaji wetu kwamba makisio haya ni ya kisayansi, lakini pia chance ya kutokea ni kati ya 80% mpaka 90 ama kati ya 50% mpaka 80. Na pia jambo lingine, kama mwanahabari chipukizi, unapokuwa unaripoti taarifa, hakikisha pia unatoa na ushauri. Kwa hivyo lazima pia uwe unasoma jinsi gani ya kukabiliana na janga ambalo litakuja. Kama kuna mafuriko, amesikia sawa, ajipangeje kama babu yako kule kijijini. Kwa hiyo mwambie basi mtoke maeneo ya mabondeni muende maeneo yenye mwinuko. Kwa hiyo lazima iwe pia taarifa yetu iwe imeboreshwa kabisa, imesema kwamba kuna hiki basi tufanye hiki, au kama pia hujui nini kifanyike, unaweza pia kutafuta wataalamu kama kutakuwa kuna janga la moto, ama kutakuwa na janga la mafuriko, ama kama kutakuwa na ukame, tuwaambie nini wananchi waweze kuwa tayari, ili waweze kila wakati kurudi kwenye redio na kusema kwamba tunapewa taarifa, tunapewa pia na suluhisho.
Mtazamaji, Kiswahili ni kitamu sana. Dora, umesikia hapa msamiati mzuri. Kama kuna mafuriko, ni vizuri kwanza kuweza kuambia wasikilizaji, Dora, kuna mafuriko, alafu wape ushauri watoke sehemu za mabondeni waende sehemu zenye mwinuko. Tuko pamoja? Nikirudi kwako ndugu yangu kutoka Greenpeace Africa, ili redio kupeana mchango zaidi kuhusu mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, ni lazima wanahabari wawe na habari za uhakika na ukweli kama alivyosema Bi Irene. Labda ni vipi mashirika kama UNEP, nitakwenda kwake, na Greenpeace Africa yanafaa kupeana data ambayo ni ya hakika kuhusu mabadiliko ya tabia nchi? Nianze na wewe.
Mashirika kama Greenpeace huwa inakuwa na kila mara na kongamano na wanahabari huwa tunakuwa na conferences ambazo tunaalika wanahabari ikiwa tuko na report mpya ambayo tumetoa, na tunawapea ili waweze kuwa wakizitumia hizi ripoti kwa kazi yao ya kutoa taarifa. Pia Greenpeace huwa inatoa mafunzo saa zingine kwa wanahabari kulingana na masuala ambayo tunashughulikia sana, masuala ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi na masuala ya kutunza mazingira kwa ujumla. Hili ni efforts ambazo zinafanywa na makundi kama vile Greenpeace Africa na asasi zingine, makundi mengine ya asasi za kijamii ambayo naelewa kwamba huwa wanatoa mafunzo kwa wanahabari kulingana na masuala ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi na masuala mengine. So haya mafunzo katika kushirikiana katika makongamano, katika andaa press conferences wakati report mpya imetoka, ni njia ambazo tunafanya ili kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba wanahabari wako na taarifa ambayo ni sahihi, taarifa ambayo ni mpya kulingana na masuala ambayo tunashughulika nayo ya utunzaji wa mazingira na pia mambo ya masuala ya mabadiliko ya tabia nchi.
Kwa pumzi sawa na hiyo, swali sawa na hilo kwenu upande wa UNEP, Bi Irene.
Sawa, sisi kama UNEP tuna mbalimbali, si tu kwa kuangalia Kenya inafanyaje ama itakuwaje, lakini pia tunafanya tafiti za kikanda, za kimataifa, na tunatoa taarifa hizi kwa vyombo vya habari, kwa serikali, kwa asasi za kiraia na kwa mashirika kama Greenpeace. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri pia wanahabari wakaweza kutembelea tovuti na kuangalia nyaraka gani zinaakisi mazingira ya Kenya, na tafiti hizi pia zinaweza kuangalia Kenya inafanyaje ukikompea na jirani zake. Kwa hivyo ndio njia mbalimbali ambazo tunaweza tukatoa taarifa na mafunzo. Huwa tunatoa pia mafunzo kwa wanahabari. Yanaweza mafunzo yakaanzishwa kwetu, lakini wakati mwingine vyombo vya habari husika huaga vinasema mwaka huu tuna kauli mbiu hii, tunataka kupata mafunzo ya kiasi hiki, na sisi tunajiandaa kutokana na wasilisho ambalo limeletwa.
Bila shaka. Kibet, kikanda ni regional. Emilio, kikanda ni regional. Jeff, kikanda ni regional. Sawa. Na labda tukimalizia hapa. Mwisho kabisa naona muda wetu natupa kisogo. Labda tukianza na wewe ndugu yangu kutoka Greenpeace. Unaona theme ya mwaka huu ni radio na climate change. Unaona radio itaendelea kuwa na nafasi ipi katika kupeana habari kuhusiana na mabadiliko ya hali ya anga au mabadiliko ya tabia nchi kama wanavyoita wengi?
Radio iko na nafasi kubwa sana katika kusaidia haswa kudhibiti makali ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi, ikiangazia masuala ambayo yanaathiri sana jamii zetu, na vile Bi Irene amesema, pia ikitoa suluhu na mafunzo ili kuweza kusaidia jamii kujiandaa na kuweza kuwa inadhibiti makali ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Lingine ni kwamba radio ni mwangaza wa jamii, ni kioo. Inaweza angazia uharibifu wa mazingira ambapo inaleta na kuongeza sana mabadiliko ya tabia nchi kama vile uharibifu wa misitu yetu. Ukiangalia hivi majuzi hapa Kenya tumekuwa na shida sana. Misitu yetu imekuwa ikiface attacks. Kuna uharibifu na ina umuhimu sana, misitu ina muhimu sana katika kudhibiti makali ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi. Kwa hivyo redio na vyombo vya habari viko na jukumu kubwa sana kuangazia uharibifu wa mazingira ambao unachangia pakubwa katika madhara ambayo yanaletwa na mabadiliko ya tabia nchi.
Bila shaka, shukran sana. Na kwa swali hilo tu Bi Irene, kwako, unaona redio itaendelea kuwa na nafasi ipi kupeana habari kuhusu mabadiliko ya tabia nchi?
Kwa kweli redio itaendelea kushika nafasi ya kuongoza katika kuhamasisha, kutoa taarifa kwa wananchi na kuenda kupambana na tabia nchi, lakini lazima tuwe wabunifu katika taarifa zetu. Kama tulivyosema, tunaripoti, lakini turipoti pia watu wafanye nini. Redio pia inaweza kuibua mambo mabaya na mazuri. Mambo mabaya hatuibui kwa ajili ya kuwashtaki, lakini tunaibua ili tuweze kuwasaidia. Pengine hawajui ni jinsi gani wanafanya vitu hivyo. Pengine kuna kiwanda sehemu fulani kinamwaga maji machafu. Kwa hiyo redio ikienda kuibua kile kiwanda kitaweza kufuata njia sahihi na kwenda kwenye vyombo husika vya kuwasaidia. Kwa hivyo pia redio ifanye kazi kubwa ya kuibua mambo mazuri yanayofanyika. Kama kuna kikundi cha kina mama kinaweza kubadilisha plastiki kuwa table mat ama kuwa bidhaa nyingine katika ile supply chain, tuko kwenye circular economy, tuwe tunaibua vitu vizuri ili jamii nyingine ziweze kujifunza. Kwa hivyo nyinyi mmeshikilia mpini wa kuweza kuambia jamii ifanye nini katika swala zima la tabia nchi.
Bila shaka Bi Irene umegonga Kiswahili mpaka nikamwona Odongo wa Ndago ametoka Radio Hall mpaka akaja hapa sababu ya Kiswahili tu. Asanteni sana wageni wetu kutoka UNEP sana, shukran Bi Irene, na vile vile pia asante sana ndugu yangu Amos kutoka Greenpeace. Kwa hakika nyote wawili mnafanya kazi kubwa, na hii tu kuja hapa ndani ya studio kuzungumza nasi bila shaka ni kazi kubwa sana. Mungu awalipe mbawazi. Asante sana Bi Irene.
Asante, nashukuru sana.
Asante sana ndugu yangu Amos.
Asante.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, naarifiwa kwamba hivi sasa ni saa 3, tuelekee upande wa pili wa studio tupate taarifa ya habari. Lakini mtazamaji tu kuwashukuru wote ambao wameweza kufanikisha kazi hii ya leo. Asanteni sana Nancy Kemunto na Dennis Kisaka, leo mumefanya kazi kubwa sana, mtakula chakula cha mcha kwa bili yenu. Lakini na vile vile pia asante sana Magda upande wa redio, asanteni sana Ben Kamuti na kikosi chako kizima cha upande wa runinga. Wapiga picha wangu hapa ndani, natumai mmejifunza Kiswahili vizuri. Mwanzo Jeff wao hujui Kiswahili, kwa hiyo leo umejua Kiswahili. Mtazamaji, kwa niaba ya mwenzangu Dora Mbanya, mimi naitwa Rashid Momkondo. Kama tulivyokuambia, redio ilizaliwa ndani ya shirika la utangazaji nchini KBC. Hakuna kama sisi, na sisi ndio tuko. Kwa herini, asanteni sana.
Are you a talented artist, or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
And from our colleagues on the other side, that is the radio side, by the way, there's the celebration of World Radio Day. It will be happening on the 13th of this month, that is on Thursday, but I can already see the radio guys have already gotten into that celebratory mood, and I love how Rashid has finished it off. Amesema hakuna kama sisi, yani wao, na sisi ndio tuko. I love that. Now we switch gears and get back to Good Morning Kenya. The segment that is on air right now is the health segment, that is Health Check. And today we will be looking at body odor, and specifically we're going to be looking at ways to deal with body odor. We know that body odor is something that mainly could be most people battle with. You know, it may be something that just happens. It's not like someone is not really looking at or have a proper hygiene. Sometimes it just happens. So we want to check and get to see what's the best way to deal with it, how can you tackle it, and so on and so forth. And joining me in studio this morning is one Donald Odongo Okumu. He is a counseling psychologist. So we're going to be looking at the implications mentally, you know, of one having body odor or dealing with body odor. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show this morning.
It's a pleasure to have you too. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Welcome. So now let's look at body odor. When we talk about body odor generally, from your point of view, what is it? What are we looking at?
You said my point of view.
From your point of view. Yeah.
Okay. A body odor, when you're talking about body odor, we are talking about that smell that comes when sweat comes to contact with the surface of your skin, and then it's broken down by bacteria. So what I'm talking about in short is the fact that sweat in itself doesn't smell. Yeah, but when it's broken down by bacteria on your skin, that's when you get that smell that comes from the body. So that smell that comes from the body is what we refer to as body odor. Yes.
All right, so that's the body odor, but it's I feel like it's very diverse. You know, there's the sweat, there could be the feet, there could be the oral, and we can't look at all of that at the same time. It needs to be broken down. So let's go with the one that you're talking about. That is the body odor, whereby your body just kind of smells maybe from the sweat and whatnot. So what could be the cause of that?
I talked about body odor. Maybe I just talked about the surface of the body. Okay, maybe we can get into that and try to see the implication that has on one's well-being in terms of physical and as well mental. When we are talking about the causes, first of all, we just have to understand the basic things about body odor. And when you're talking about the contact of sweat with the skin, then that's the number one cause. So we've got to understand what sweat really is. And when we're talking about sweat, we could be talking about sweat glands. Maybe these are some of the things that people who hated biology would not love to hear. But when we're talking about sweat glands, we're talking about two things. The sweat glands that secrete only water, and that's found all over the body. And then there's the sweat glands that secrete even proteins and some solid elements that are found in those corners of your body. And we're talking about maybe the armpit, we're talking about the groin, the genital area, and the things like that. And then it is the sweat glands that secrete the solid bits of sweat that are liked by the bacteria to be broken down. And when they are broken down, we are talking about that odor, that smell that comes from the broken down solid items of the sweat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there foods or particular drinks that may be aiding you know, the body odor?
Yeah. So looking at the further details, we are talking about, so I've talked about sweat, which is water, salt, fat, that is secreted by the body, and then it gets into contact with the bacteria on the surface of your skin, and then that bacteria breaks that down to bring that aspect of odor. So we can be talking about food, and when we're talking about food, there is this common saying that you're what you eat. So in this context, it can also make sense that you are what you eat in terms of the food that you eat, whatever it is rich in, will determine the kind of smell that will come from your body. So when you take food that is rich in, let me say, ammonium or sulfur, things like garlic, onions, cabbage, broccoli, there's a high likelihood that when it's not broken down well in your body, there's a chance that can be felt when your sweat comes to contact with the bacteria on your skin. At some point when you're talking about beverages, we can think about alcohol. We can also think about coffee as also one of the causes of that foul smell. Yes. Yeah. So when eating is not done in regulation, then there's that chance that what you eat will come out in terms of smell when you sweat.
Yeah, so it could also be from what you're putting inside your body, you know, in terms of what you're drinking, what you're eating. You know, for some people, as I mentioned when I was beginning, it's not like they have bad hygiene habits. You know, someone may be showering regularly, you know, even twice a day, at least twice a day. Someone may be using deo, you know, they just have a good hygiene, you know, routine, but still suffer from body odor.
Yeah.
Like for someone like that, like what would you advise, or what could be the reason really? Because now you are following all these steps that everyone else is following, but still,
so you are following a strict hygiene routine, number one, but then still you are looking at bad body odor. Then we could be talking about some other underlying conditions. There could be some underlying health conditions that are associated with that body odor. Maybe not something so strange or something so huge, but something as simple as maybe have you shaved your armpits? Do you have the hair in your groin area shaved? And something like that, because it is in that hair that the bacteria likes to thrive in. So when sweat comes into contact with your skin, it doesn't evaporate quickly as compared to when you have your body clean. So when the sweat stays for long without evaporation, then there is a chance that it interacts more with the bacteria, and then the bacteria breaks it down, and then it becomes odor. So when we are talking about that, we could be looking at maybe an underlying physical condition that can only be concluded or maybe diagnosed when some specific blood works are done. Yes. So it could not just be a solely hygiene issue, but it also cuts across health, underlying conditions. At some point, you could also be talking about some mental conditions that can lead to or that can predispose you to that aspect of body odor.
Yeah. There's a misconception, I don't know if you've heard about it. Some people say that ni damu inanuka. Could you debunk that, or what would you say about that?
Scientifically, I haven't heard about damu inanuka. I haven't heard about damu inanuka, and at some point we could be talking about contaminated blood, the one that becomes pus. That's what we can be talking about as that which smells, or that which has an infection. So if it has an infection, there is a high likelihood that it will have some smell. But generally, blood under normal circumstances, every other factor held constant, doesn't smell.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Is there a correlation or a connection between body odor and stress and anxiety?
Yes, there is a very close correlation between body odor, stress, and anxiety. Because when we are talking about anxiety, we can be talking about some of the things. Okay, in mental health in general, we can be talking about things that we call psychosomatic symptoms.
Okay, can you explain what that is?
Yes, psyche, not the psycho that we usually talk about. But when we're talking about psycho, we are talking about the mind. When we're talking about the soma, we are talking about the body. So there are symptoms that are connected to the mind, but can be felt on the physical bit of view. So when we are looking at the psychosomatic aspects, when somebody is stressed, for example, when somebody is anxious, there's a tendency that they sweat a lot. When they sweat a lot, that aspect of being in public becomes a little uncomfortable for them. And then when it's uncomfortable, then it means that they will avoid as much as they can these social settings. They will avoid gatherings. They will avoid going to places that will need them to interact with others, maybe at close range. So at some point, there's the aspect of you asked about anxiety and stress, but I think I should also talk about depression. I should also talk about some other mental illnesses. But when we're talking about depression, when somebody is depressed, there's that aspect of low motivation. So when you are not motivated to get anything done, or you're just lethargic, you don't have the energy to get anything started, then it means there is a high likelihood that you'll neglect the aspect of personal hygiene. And then when you neglect that aspect of personal hygiene, then that will mean you are putting yourself at a very high risk of having this body odor. Then there are people who have that which we call dysmorphia. or body dysmorphic disorder, that aspect of obsession with perceived flaws. Yeah, you just have an aspect of I think I look like this, or I think I smell like this, then people are likely to view me in a particular way. So what will I do to compensate, or maybe as a defense mechanism? I will try as much as I can to hide. Yeah, to hide that. Maybe I disguise it with grooming. I overgroom. At some point, I try as much to avoid to use maybe deodorants, to overuse them. Maybe that which becomes uncomfortable to the people around you, just in the name of you are perceiving a specific flaw on you. So then there are some other mental illnesses. Maybe depression is one of them, but when you're talking about schizophrenia, for example, schizophrenia is a mental illness that interferes with how you relate with the reality, or how you interact with the reality. So there's that disordered relationship with the reality that you have, and at some point it can come in very many forms. And then when we are talking about this specific form, we could be talking about maybe an olfactory perspective. We are talking about smell. So that which interferes with you, with how you smell or how you feel the things around you. So when it interferes with the smell, you can imagine that you're smelling some particular way, but you're not. Yeah, but then when that comes, it means there's a chance, or there's a likelihood that you are going to overdo some of the things to compensate for that which you've perceived. Yes. So those are some of the things that we can be talking about when we're talking about mental health, stress, anxiety, depression, dysmorphia, schizophrenia, and all that.
You've talked about that the body odor could be some form of some underlying medical issues, some underlying issues. Maybe can you mention some of the issues that just come to mind that may be connected with that?
Yeah, so I've talked about the mental disorders, or the mental illnesses that we're talking about when you're looking at it. But there's a condition called hyperhidrosis. So hyper means higher or high, then hydro means water. So hyperhidrosis is excessive sweating, whereby you sweat a lot, maybe in your palms, you sweat in your sole, or any part of your body, groin, armpit, every other part of your body sweats a lot. That could be a condition that could lead to that aspect of body odor. At some point, we could be talking about these other lifestyle diseases like diabetes. When you're talking about diabetes, there's the change in your body sugars and things like that, how they are broken down and how it interacts with your system. It just changes totally. You could be talking about gout. When we are talking about these physical illnesses, what we need to have in our minds is that aspect of hormonal changes. And then at the hormonal changes, at some point, it doesn't have to be a disorder, or it doesn't have to be an illness for it to cause this aspect of body odor. Something interesting is even the fact that for women during their ovulation stage, there is a change in their odor, to attract a mate. So you see that aspect of change, that hormonal change that happens when somebody is ovulating. There's the very huge hormonal changes that happen when somebody approaches menopause or something like that. There are also just the bodily changes or the bodily adjustments that come with age. As you advance in age, probably as an adolescent, as a youth, as you start to maybe experience some other metabolic processes that you are not used to when you are younger, there is that aspect of change that, when not well embraced, can lead to changes in your hygiene routines. And then when you don't do it well, there's a chance that your body odor will not be at its best. Yes.
Yeah. What's the best way to go about managing this now?
Naturally, when it's not something that is pathological, we could be talking about managing it in terms of observing a keen hygiene routine, ensuring that all the unnecessary hair, especially in those corners of your bodies, shaved, number one. Then number two, we could be using some antibacterial soap. yeah, or maybe some antibacterial detergents that ensures that it gets rid of the bacteria on the surface of your skin. Then at some point we can also be talking about these deodorants. Yeah, deodorants can also help to cover up for that bad smell, that foul smell. Maybe by some act by covering the sweat pores, the pores on your skin and things like that. We can also be talking about antiperspirants. Yeah, antiperspirants can also help because they have maybe some content of aluminium, and then that aluminium acts by preventing sweating, a lot of sweating. So those are some of the ways of dealing with it. And then when you're talking about these other physical and mental illnesses, we can be talking about ways of managing. So just having that mastery of yourself, being comfortable under your skin, and then trying to understand what are some of the situations or circumstances that cause stress. What are some of the circumstances that make me feel some particular way, and then how do I do it? Maybe at some point you just ensure that you take a bath from time to time, you avoid those intensive activities, and then after that you don't do anything about your hygiene and things like that. The things that will make you feel uncomfortable, maybe in a social gathering and things like that, you try as much to strike a balance between your hygiene and your engagement in the activities that will make you to sweat or to engage or to be physically active and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there natural remedies that you would talk about?
Natural remedies, I think the one that comes off my mind is just to be able to manage stress, for example, be able to manage anxiety. Just master yourself without using anything else, but just have that mastery. Of yourself and get to know what exactly happens to you in some specific circumstances. Yes.
All right. And having any kind of body odor, of course, makes one feel embarrassed around people, you know, most often than not. So what's the best way, you know, from just the perspective of a counseling psychologist, what's the best way to cope with this kind of embarrassment? Yeah.
So first of all, you are not able to deal with what happens to you when you're already there. So what it means, you have to have some aspect of, I'd call it prerequisite preparation when you are dealing with maybe people in a social setup. So when you know maybe you are going to a situation that will make you anxious in some way, if you have mastered that these are the things that make me anxious, these are the things that make me feel some particular way. When you have that understanding or when you have that knowledge, it best prepares you. When we are talking about maybe getting ready to get something done, at least you are able to think about, you are able to foretell what is going to happen and how is it going to look like. What am I going to do in this perspective? If this presents to me, how am I going to handle it and something like that. So getting to deal with it and getting to understand yourself, because at some point you just understand, but then there are things that you cannot deal with instantly. For example, social anxiety, or maybe some people suffer from what we call selective mutism. So when you are able to address this underlying condition before maybe placing yourself in a situation that will make you uncomfortable, the better for you. So you need to understand and address some of these issues that you have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe just what's the best way to go about challenging the negative thoughts that one may have on self-consciousness? You know, there's something you had touched on at the beginning whereby you said someone may be overthinking about it, so you try and overdo. You know, so maybe what's the best way to just deal with that, challenging that negative thought and self-consciousness?
Yeah, it calls for a lot of scrutiny, and you have to dissect yourself thoroughly. I'd say that. And that aspect of dissection may not be able to come from you as an individual, but then from maybe somebody else who has maybe that professional background to help you deal with this aspect of mastering yourself, having this mastery of yourself and getting to know these are my weaknesses, these are my strengths, these are the things that I can do, these are the things I cannot do, and things like that. Then it well prepares you to get to know how are these things connected in terms of making the whole of me. And then how do I deal with some of these issues? How do I work with my weaknesses? Because no average person has no weakness.
Yeah.
Everybody has a strength. How do I work with my strengths? Maybe to cover up for my weaknesses. My weaknesses don't have to show every other time. I don't have to maybe put myself in situations that my weaknesses are put to test and things like that. So it calls for an aspect of understanding, and then that understanding, it can best come from maybe peer groups, or maybe your friends. It can come from a professional, it can come from whatever source, but then if you have it, then you're good to go. Yes.
Yeah. And you know, humans are social beings.
Sure.
You know, no man is really an island. So maybe what are some of the strategies that one can use to prevent, you know, them having body odor or any body odor of that kind, you know, from affecting their relationships with other people?
So when it comes to interactions, yes, there is that bit of discomfort that comes when you are actually having that odor, or maybe you're perceiving that you're having that odor. So there is that aspect that comes with it. So the first thing is to get to understand your body, master your body. I can't overemphasize that. You have to understand your body. And then when you have this understanding of your body and how it reacts to situations, how it reacts to circumstances, just know that you are able to interact with people positively. The other thing is to observe what you eat. Like I said, you are what you eat. Don't take a lot of food that is rich in sulfur, or the ammonium products and things like that, that will bring that pungent smell, that rotten egg smell, and something like that. Ensure that you observe good hygiene. Hygiene is also very paramount. And from time to time, you can use deodorants, you can use the detergents that are antibacterial, you can use the antiperspirants. You can also ensure that when it persists, because these are things that can be dealt with naturally, but when it persists, you can as well have maybe contact with a healthcare provider. You can look for help in terms of maybe a medical perspective. Yes.
All right. Can body odor, you know, be an unconscious reaction to stress?
Yes. I don't know whether by unconscious you mean it's something that just comes, but you don't understand. But when you're talking about body odor as an unconscious way of probably
a reaction to maybe one's emotional stress, or
yes, it could be conscious, it could be unconscious, because there are some things that we'll just see. When you're stressed, there's just that aspect of somatic change, or there's that aspect of physical change that comes. You're stressed, maybe you don't have the energy to get anything done, so maybe you neglect your hygiene, you become, maybe you overindulge in eating specific food and things like that, and then the specific food is what probably predisposes you to maybe this aspect of, but that where is it coming from? Where is my order coming from, or where is my stress coming from? Then you are able to handle it. But one thing that we all should know is that all of us are wired differently. And then that difference means that we are not able to react to situations the same way. The way your body reacts to stress is different from the way my body reacts to stress, because one fact is that everybody has to handle stress in their daily interactions. Yes. So,
Okay. Maybe what role do the surroundings play? You know, and by surroundings, I'm also talking about what role do the people around someone who may be struggling with body odor, what role do they play in this?
So the people surrounding, in terms of the people you interact with on a daily basis, maybe friends, family members, friends, or maybe colleagues and things like that. The people you interact with can at some point evoke stress to a certain degree. If, for example, something that can stress somebody, I know this is funny, but when somebody calls me by my full name, especially people that I'm used to, people who know me well. When they call me by my full name, then I'm like, oh, okay, so what are you up to?
It comes as a shocker.
Yes, so it makes me feel some type of way. So you can imagine if these are the people that I'm used to. Imagine that's your boss and now calling you, and you're going to interact with your boss and things like that. And then maybe your friends, maybe people that you are well acquainted to, they are calling you with that specific name, or maybe that particular way. So when we are looking at it from that perspective, the people that you interact with can make your body react in a different way, because when you're feeling anxious, maybe interacting with maybe somebody who's very prominent, and you feel maybe too little to interact with this person, there is that aspect of anxiety that comes. And then when the anxiety comes, there are some those somatic symptoms that we can be talking about, the sweating, the stomach rumbling, and the things like that. So it's true that the interactions that you have with the people around you can at some point make you react in a certain way, make your body feel some type of way, and then that feeling can make you sweat, and then that sweat is what may lead to that odor.
Yeah. But now I also want to get your perspective on now the role of the people that you normally just interact with on a daily, you know, maybe your family members and your friends, and you are you're self-conscious about, you know, your odor. So maybe just what role do they have to play, you know, in ensuring that you also just your relationships remain intact still?
Yeah, so they play a very huge role, I can say, because at some point, the way that you view yourself is as a result of what somebody tells you. At some point, you may realize that the feedback that the people tell you, especially maybe when you're talking about romantic partners, for example, the kind of feedback that they tell you are likely to stick with you for the rest of your life. Somebody tells you, hey, when you sweat, nobody can ever stay around you. And then that's something that can really stick with you, and it can really hit your self-esteem badly. And then your self-confidence just goes down like that. So the people that you interact with can maybe make you feel better, or maybe make you feel comfortable under your skin, or they can make you feel uncomfortable. They can support, they can stigmatize, they can victimize, and they can do all sorts of things, negative and positive. Yes.
Yeah. All right. How can one balance self-care routines, you know? And by this, I'm looking at hygiene, you know, as well as diet and all of that. How can one balance, you know, self-care routines with managing any psychological effects of body odor?
Actually, I'd not say it's a one-size-fits-all, but when we are looking at it, we can be talking about these basic things. Just go back to the basics. Just ensure that you are hygienic. Ensure that you're taking a bath. Because nobody is going to tell you that when you wake up in the morning, get this done and things like that. And those are not very expensive things. They are not things that are out of the ordinary, because I can imagine that even if you cannot be able to afford water or whatever it is, there are some ways that you can really think about how do you take care of your hygiene, and then how do you ensure that you balance the physical activities that make you sweat with ensuring that you follow or you stick to your hygiene routines. From time to time, do you have maybe these deodorants? Do you have maybe these antibacterial soaps? Do you ensure that what you take in is well balanced in such a manner that it doesn't have much of what we are talking about when we mentioned something on what you eat comes out, maybe in terms of the order that you get. At some point, hygiene, something as basic as having your teeth brushed, good oral hygiene, just ensuring that you have everything in check. Those are some of the basic things that will make you to start feeling comfortable. And then that triple effect that even goes to how you interact with others, how you view yourself. And then if you have this positive view of yourself, then it means you'll have positive interactions with the people around you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe still on that note, maybe how is one able to improve their self-esteem generally? Yeah.
So improving your self-esteem means it's something that is not so good. Yeah. When your self-esteem is not so good, first of all, it begins with accepting, and then that acceptance comes with a bit of understanding that this is who I am, and I don't have to beat myself so hard. And then you get to ask yourself, even if you beat yourself so hard for the esteem issues that you have or some of the things that happen to you, then are you able to really make it better? Yeah. Will you make it better, or will it become worse? What do you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable, yeah, in that which you do? And then how do you embrace the weaknesses that you have? And then trying to understand that in as much as you have your own weaknesses, you have your own flaws, there are aspects of strength in you, and then there are opportunities for you to grow. There are things that you can do, and then what I like to say is the fact that you can be a masterpiece and a work in progress all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes. So having that understanding that you are only human and you have your limitations, you have your flaws, you have things like that. You have limitations. You cannot be able to be a macho man, a macho woman. You cannot be able to have everything figured out. Having that acceptance is one of the things that will set you up to deal with maybe esteem issues that you could be having. At some point, the kind of people that you keep around you. At some point, just one word, you know, a word that somebody throws at you will determine what happens to you in terms of how you perceive yourself. Sometimes somebody just says something. It's like maybe taking a stone and then dropping it in the ocean. You don't know how deep it goes and something like that. Yeah. So the people that you have around you, if there are people that can support you and bring the best version of you, that's good for you. And then that helps you to interact with people from a positive perspective, not having to think a lot about what you look like, what you smell like, what people perceive of you, and things like that. So ensure that you have maybe people who support you in a way that helps you grow and become the better version of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. As we almost come to a conclusion of this conversation, I believe this is almost related to what you're talking about, but just how to work around guilt. You know, how to work around guilt, how to work around shame. Yeah.
So guilt and shame, depending on what causes it. When you're talking about guilt, when you're talking about shame, it could be as a result of some psychosocial issues. Maybe you feel guilty because somebody told you you do something in some particular way, you talk in some particular way, or maybe you perceive the environment in some particular way. Then you could be guilty, or you could be too cautious when you are doing that specific thing, and then you feel there is that aspect of shame. What picture am I really painting to the people around me? What am I really talking about when we are talking when we are looking at my interactions with other people? Then the only place that I can feel comfortable is a place where I am by myself. I am alone. And then, like you said, we are social beings and things like that. So when you are feeling guilty, it's good for you to understand where is it coming from. What is the underlying cause? What really makes you feel that aspect of guilt? At some point, it could not be as a result of your social interactions. It could be as a result of some of the things that you experience. Probably a loss of a loved one. You could be talking about the issue of death, maybe just thinking about something so much that it interferes with even the confidence that you have in you. Then it means that shame or that guilt could be coming from that perspective. So the best thing is to understand, and then maybe hook yourself with help. Hook yourself with a support group. Doesn't have to be a professional. It could be just a friend who listens to you, somebody who helps you to understand yourself and really get comfortable with who you are, and also embrace the fact that you can change and you can get something done to make yourself better.
All right.
Yeah.
On to my last question now. For someone who's, you know, maybe battling with recurring body odor, or let me not call it recurring, let me use the word chronic, you know, chronic body odor, you know, they've been battling with it. It's not like they don't look after themselves. They do all the things that you've been doing. So you advise that they go see a medical professional?
Yes, yes. They go see a medical professional so that it is known, or it is clear whether it is something that is physical. Is it something that has to do with maybe an underlying physical condition, or is it something that has to do with a psychological condition? So there's that difference that will only become clearer when you're able to handle that from a professional perspective. Yes.
All right. There's a question that has just come in. Allow me to pose it to you before we close.
Okay.
So someone says they have a friend who has not married despite the ripe age. He told me he has a problem of rumbling stomach whenever he gets close to a lady of his choice. Okay, I'm just reading it right now as it's come in. So he has a problem of rumbling stomach whenever he gets close to a lady of his choice. At times he sweats and his armpits produces a bad odor a lot when he has a meetup with a lady. Is this a psychosocial issue, or it will fade away with time? Is there any remedy to such a situation?
Yeah, so from that question, I think all the things, or all the explanation are ticking all the boxes for anxiety. Yeah, that could be an aspect of anxiety that can only be handled through proper psychotherapy. And because it is something that you see, something as basic as it interferes with his social life. Yeah, because you are not human, you are not fully human until you have a social aspect of you. So because it interferes with the social life, then we are talking about that aspect of there is an underlying psychological condition. There is a problem that should be addressed. So what can happen in terms of remedy? Let him get help from a professional. Yeah. Let him go for therapy first, and then from that therapy, he can be able to figure out whether there is anything that is underlying that is physical, so that maybe he can go see a physician or something like that.
Okay,
yes.
So it could be a psychosocial issue.
Yes,
yeah. All right.
And specifically what I'm thinking about, this is just my thought, my point of view again, anxiety.
Anxiety.
Yes.
All right, your final remarks in the fewest of words.
What I can say is that get to understand yourself. Get to master yourself, because nobody is going to help you to do the most basic of things when it comes to taking care of yourself. Good hygiene, good food, good clothing. Just ensure that you are comfortable under your skin, understand yourself, interact with the right people, and ensure that you are having the best for yourself when it comes to growth and feeling comfortable in social settings.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so very much for joining us for this conversation. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
I'm so happy.
All right. Yeah. That was Donald Odongo Okumu. He is a counseling psychologist. And this is where we end this conversation, as well as Good Morning Kenya for today. On behalf of everyone who has made this a success, we want to wish you a lovely day, and do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
From the bliss of new beginnings to the trials of commitment, this is a celebration of resilience, passion, and the power of togetherness. Join us as we unravel real-life stories, because every journey deserves to be cherished, for better, for worse, on KBC Channel 1.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Have you tried any of these generative AI programs where you give it a few words and it spits out an image? Now software is turning text prompts into video. It's super realistic, but also sometimes super dangerous. Also on the show, an AI child. Is that sweet and cute or just creepy? Researchers in China have really created one. And would you accept a brain chip from Elon Musk? Because one person did. There could be surprising medical benefits and major privacy risks.